Xianxia awakens in the forbidden land of samsara, his secrets laid bare before Shen Xi. A terrifying crimson crack is expanding, and a spirit stirs within his ring. Leave a like and subscribe to walk this path. When Xianxia finally woke up, it was already the next day. When profound practitioners had reached the realm of the divine, sleep was basically no longer important. But the aura in the forbidden land of samsara was simply far too pure and enthralling. Thus, sleeping in this place was undoubtedly an extremely pleasant and luxurious experience. He had spent more time sleeping during these 2 months than he had for the entire 3 years he had spent in the Snow Song realm. As the sleep started to clear from his head, the celestial countenance of Shen Xi that had been deeply carved into the depths of his soul, and everything else that had happened previously, flooded into his mind. He instantly sat up and stared dazedly into the distance. It was a good long while before he finally came to. Within that quiet and elegant small bamboo house, the bamboo bed beneath him, the traces of the mess they had created, and the odor in the air, all of these things were proof that everything that had happened was real and not some exquisite dream. He sat there in a complete stupor, and he dozed half a day away before he finally regained his senses and silently let out a breath. Everything that had happened was real. He had actually taken Shen Xi, and he had actually taken Shen Xi, the benefactor that he had extreme admiration and respect for, and... Wait, that was not right. It would be more accurate to say that Shen Xi was the one who had done him instead. He had seen every inch of the most beautiful woman in this world, and he had experienced an inconceivable and unimaginable day and night. Furthermore, his impression of Shen Xi had also been completely overturned. In his heart, Shen Xi had originally been a sacred celestial maiden who lived in a heavenly abode, and all the so-called sacredness of all the sacred maidens in the mortal realm combined together would not even make up 1% of Shen Xi's. Because Xianxia had sensed a true pureness and hallowed sacredness radiating from her body. But now he had discovered that he was still far too young and naive. It turned out that she wasn't the stainless, pure, and holy celestial maiden he thought she was. On the contrary, while she appeared indifferent and without desire on the outside, she was in actuality a demonic temptress whose desire and appetite could not be sated. He had only known Shen Xi for 2 months. They had no prior interactions, nor did they hold any grudges or resentments against each other. And they basically only saw each other for a few short breaths every day, with the motivation behind these meetings being to suppress the Brahma soul death-wishing mark. The understanding they had of each other's past and character was very shallow, and there had not been any mixing or sharing of feelings whatsoever. Furthermore, she was someone he had viewed and addressed as a senior. Yet Shen Xi had seduced him, a junior who had come from the outside world, and allowed him to do whatever he pleased with her. Indeed, it was impossible for an otherworldly goddess who truly lacked all worldly desires to exist in this world. Even if it was a real celestial maiden, even she would have desires. Furthermore, given Shen Xi's celestially beautiful face, as long as she was willing, which man in this world would not be willing to collapse underneath her skirts. She had even seduced him, a junior who had just barged in recently in such an unrestrained manner. So she must definitely have long ago already bedded countless men. As these thoughts flitted about in his head, Xianxia's heart was filled with bewilderment and complex feelings. He stood up from the bamboo bed, and just as he was about to move, he suddenly felt his tailbone go numb, nearly causing him to fall back down on his butt. Xianxia unconsciously pressed a hand against the small of his back, and both his legs were also felt weak and limp. He recalled the day and night that he had spent pressing up against Shen Xi's body, when he had practically morphed into a completely frenzied wild beast. Even after the days preceding his journey to the God realm, when he had crazily tossed around Kang Yue, Su Linger, Feng Zuer, and the little demon empress for 4 days and 3 nights, he had not felt this weak or spent. To say nothing of the fact that he was currently in the divine spirit realm, he was far superior to what he had been at that time. Shen Xi, if she turned her charm on, she would definitely be able to cause a profound practitioner of the divine way to die on top of her. Right, how did I even fall asleep in the first place? Could it be that I vented so much lust on her that I spent myself completely? As he recalled Shen Xi's incomparably beautiful and exquisite jade body, even the current him, who was in a state of weakness, actually felt his blood surge and his body temperature soar in that one moment. He hurriedly took a few gasps of air before he forcefully suppressed the unclean desires that rose in his heart. After that, he prepared to use his profound energy to get rid of the weakness that his body felt. Just as he was about to use his profound energy, he was fiercely jolted, and he fell into a long stupor, a strange light of disbelief radiating from his eyes. His body actually contained one more energy that did not belong to him. That energy was incomparably calm, and it was pure and sacred as well. When his will came into contact with this energy, his heart was jolted by a clear and intense feeling of sacredness. This was, even though it did not feel the same, this aura was not something Xianxia was unfamiliar with, because just 2 years ago he had obtained the same thing from Mu Xunian's body. The energy of vital yin. Shen Xi, she was a virgin. Xianxia muttered dazedly to himself, and no matter what he did, he could not bring himself to believe that. The originally sacred and otherworldly Shen Xi in his heart had transformed into someone who appeared sacred and holy, but was in actuality a temptress whose desires could not be sated or fulfilled. But the energy of vital yin that flowed in his body had thrown him into complete and utter shock and confusion. What was going on here? The existence of this vital yin proved that she had never been stained by any other man before. So before the events of yesterday, she had truly been as spotless as a white wall, sacred and pure. So why did she do such a thing to him, and she had even taken the initiative to do so? Just why exactly did she do that? While Xianxia was lost in thought, he suddenly felt his lower abdomen throb violently. Following that, he felt an incomparably warm and gentle energy surge up in his body, releasing a flow of energy that was similarly gentle. It swiftly spread throughout his entire body as it flowed up from the inside to the outside of his body. Before Xianxia could even react, his entire body was shrouded by a layer of dull white light. It was a pure white light that was exactly the same as the one which shrouded Shen Xi, but it was far from possessing the deep sacredness that radiated from her. Xianxia slowly raised a hand, and as his will moved, a cluster of white light slowly formed in the middle of his palm. It was a very pure light without any other impurities. This cluster of profound light was very calm compared to fire, ice, and lightning. It was even more calm than the purest form of profound energy. It calmly radiated light. It did not move, nor did it possess any offensive attributes. Furthermore, Xianxia could clearly sense a sort of sacred aura radiating from it. This cluster of profound light had been birthed from his profound energy. He steadily looked at it, and merely the act of looking at caused his heart to slowly start becoming tranquil. Even the shock and haziness that had descended over his heart and mind, even the impure thoughts and desires that had just been aroused in his heart, all of it was slowly fading away. "This is Senior Shen Xi's power," Xianxia said to himself. Xia Qingyu had said that this was the unique divine power that only Shen Xi possessed in this entire world. By means of her vital yin, he had actually somehow obtained the unique divine power that she possessed. Just what kind of power was this? At the same time, the white light had started floating along Xianxia's body. The world of Xianxia's profound veins was now covered with a layer of sacred and pure white brilliance. It had originally been a profound vein world that had been segmented between the 4 colors, red, blue, purple, and black. Right now, that world had finally been dyed in a 5th color, which also represented the 5th kind of energy that he possessed, light profound energy. Because this light profound energy had not been birthed from an evil god's seed, it did not form an independent domain of light within the world of Xianxia's profound veins. Instead, it lightly spread to every corner of that world, tinging each domain with a sacred brilliance and aura, including the darkness domain. But at this moment, Xianxia did not yet know that this was light profound energy. He was even more unaware of what the bizarre coexistence of the light profound energy and the darkness profound energy within his body truly entailed. The 5 basic elemental profound energies each had an element which inhibited them. But even though they interfered with each other, they could still coexist. Even the most volatile combination of water and fire could still be forcefully cultivated at the same time. But darkness and light were 2 elements which completely clashed against each other. 2 elements which absolutely could not exist together. According to the existing knowledge within the God realm, even to the knowledge that existed during the era of the primordial gods and devils, these were 2 elements that absolutely could not coexist. Even the creation god of the elements was unable to accomplish this task. Xianxia clenched his fist, and the white light that was glowing above his hand, and from his body disappeared at the same time. He did not refine the energy of vital yin that had come from Shen Xi. Instead, he suppressed it and walked outside with complex feelings in his heart. As he pushed open the bamboo door, it was as if he had opened a window into a dreamscape. With a single glance, Xianxia saw a wood spirit girl who was standing not too far away from him, staring at his location. The moment she saw him, she skipped towards him on light feet before arriving in front of him. "Xianxia, you've finally come out." Xianxia felt his heart go weak, and even his thick-skinned face blushed before he said, without changing expression, "You were waiting for me here." "Amen." He Ling nodded her head. "Master told me to inform you that you were to go look for her once you came out." She pointed towards where Shen Xi was. After that, her lips parted, and it was as if she had wanted to ask him a question but stopped herself midway. All right, I'll go right away," Xianxia said in a hurried voice. After that, he left as if he was fleeing the scene. His only fear was that He Ling would actually ask him something. As she looked at the hurried figure of Xianxia leaving, a look of suspicion appeared on the tender face of the wood spirit girl. He was inside with Master for a day and a night. Just what exactly had they been doing inside? Also, why did Master say that? He could help me take revenge. Shen Xi stood amidst the sea of flowers, the white light shrouding her body as it once again concealed that elegant beauty that would cause all of the spirit flowers in this place to lose all their color. Once she sensed Xianxia's arrival, she turned around to face him before gently saying, "You've woken up." "Amen." Xianxia nodded his head, and he found that he did not know what to say after that. The Shen Xi in front of him seemed to be situated in the peaks of the highest clouds. Her voice was gentle and indifferent. Her aura seemed distant and indistinct, causing people to not dare approach for fear of profaning her. Xianxia felt a moment of stupor overtake him. Had he truly pressed her down beneath him and unrestrainedly vented his carnal desires on her for a day and a night? The fact that you are currently powerless and not motivated to help He Ling take revenge is something that I've already told her, Shen Xi said in a gentle voice. But do not forget, He Ling is someone you owe your life to, and don't forget what else you have said, that this is only for now. If you truly do have sufficient power in the future when you are taking your own revenge, do not forget He Ling. After she finished speaking, she softly added a few words. However, that day may perhaps soon arrive. Yes, Xianxia forced himself to respond. Shen Xi looked at him before speaking in a voice was as soft as cotton. During the next few days, be sure to focus on refining my vital yin. If you lose even the smallest part of it, that will be a great pity. She had spoken the 3 words, my vital yin, in such an indifferent and gentle manner that it seemed like she was discussing something that could not be more ordinary or commonplace. Xianxia was rooted in place as a faint and mysterious dizziness assaulted him, and he did not know how to respond to what she had said for a long while. This feeling was simply far too strange. Shen Xi, what sort of person was she? "Do you have something to ask me?" Shen Xi said. There were indeed countless questions and misgivings present in Xianxia's heart, especially the question of why a goddess that was admired by the entire world like herself was willing to give herself to him. But facing that stainless and pure celestial figure, he was unable to say anything even related to that topic. After staring blankly into space for a long period of time, he finally stretched out a hand, and a cluster of lustrous white, profound light started flashing above his hand. "Shen Xi, Senior Shen Xi, this junior wants to know what exactly this energy is." He had found it very awkward to say that word, senior. Upon looking at the white, profound light in Xianxia's hands, Shen Xi was actually rendered speechless for a long time. Xianxia was slightly shocked by this, and he glanced to the side as he asked, "Could it be that there is some sort of issue?" The only thing that greeted him was a deep silence. After another long period of time, Shen Xi's aura started to fluctuate faintly as she softly mumbled to herself in an absent-minded voice. "Why did this power appear inside your body?" Xianxia's eyebrows twitched as the suspicions and doubt in his heart deepened. He tried to probe further. "Do you mean that this isn't a gift that Senior Shen Xi has deliberately bestowed upon me?" Shen Xi once again lapsed into a deep silence, and a full 10 breaths had passed before she softly spoke once more. "This power is a unique sort of profound energy. It is called light profound energy." "Light profound energy," Xianxia softly muttered that name. "Have you heard of darkness profound energy?" Shen Xi asked. "Amen," Xianxia nodded his head. He had not only heard of it, he also possessed an extremely strong darkness profound energy that was stored away in the depths of his body. This was also the one secret that he could least afford to have exposed. During the conferred god battle, that man called Wei Hen did not even leave behind a skeleton, and even his name had been wiped away just as if a curtain had covered it before their very eyes. At that time, the extreme loathing and animosity that had been shown by all of the profound practitioners had been particularly striking and chilling. Light profound energy is something that completely contradicts darkness profound energy. It is a kind of unique profound energy that is extremely holy and pure, a profound energy that has been adorned with the title sacred, Shen Xi said gently. It is not like the other forms of profound energy. Its existence is absolutely not for the purpose of destruction or slaughter. Rather, it was meant to create and to save, meant to cleanse the hearts and souls of all the living creatures in the universe. It was created for the purpose of purifying all kinds of impurity and sin. The reason why I am able to suppress and get rid of the Brahma soul, death-wishing mark, also originates from light profound energy's ability to cleanse and purify. Xianxia. Therefore, light profound energy has an extremely weak destructive and attack power, and it is not even equivalent to pure profound energy in that regards. Yet it is the only thing that darkness profound energy fears, as it is the greatest bane of darkness profound energy. At the same time, darkness profound energy counters it just as well as it counters darkness profound energy. So while darkness profound energy is terrified of it, it is also terrified of the corrosion wrought by darkness profound energy. Shen Xi's gaze moved away from the cluster of white light floating above Xianxia's hand. My vital yin would indeed gift you with light profound energy. It's just that I had never expected that it would actually be compatible with your body and allow you to manipulate and control it. It looks like you are far more extraordinary than I had initially thought or guessed. Her tone was very calm, and it seemed like it was always this mild and gentle. But Xianxia did not know that her heart was currently being rocked by exceptionally intense waves. Could it have something to do with the royal wood spirit orb within his body? No, even if his body did contain a wood spirit orb, it also should not be like this. Is this power very hard to control? Xianxia faintly drew back his palm, and the white light floating above it grew weaker by several degrees. He had never thought that profound energy, which was completely equivalent to destructive power in the eyes of all profound practitioners, could actually be so gentle and tranquil. When he had obtained Mu Xuanian's vital yin at that time, because it had been far too fierce and violent. Even the him who possessed the evil god's water seed had nearly suffered internal injuries due to the fierce impact. Thus, he had to be extremely careful and cautious when refining it. However, even though this light energy that had come from Shen Xi was far more mysterious and dense compared to Mu Xuanian's vital yin, when he had come into contact with it just now, the energy that erupted outwards was indescribably mild and gentle. It felt like a vast and boundless ocean current that was also exceptionally warm and gentle, had washed over his entire body furthermore. During the entire process of it flowing through his body and returning to the world of his profound veins, it had not needed to focus or guide his profound energy in any way whatsoever. When one first started cultivating a new kind of profound energy, it was the process of completely controlling and becoming fully well-versed in using it that was very hard. Far harder, in fact, than the process of comprehending and understanding it. Furthermore, the time required to complete this process would also be appropriately long. Yet, to Xianxia, causing this light profound energy to appear and controlling it could not be any more natural or easy for him. He had not experienced any bottlenecks or difficulty at all while using it. It had practically come as naturally to him as controlling his own breathing. The reason why he could completely and freely control fire, water, lightning, and darkness profound energy was due to the existence of the evil god's seeds. However, this light profound energy was something he had just obtained, and he had not even obtained it through his own comprehension or cultivation. Yet he could control it in such a free and unconstrained manner. As the most sacred and pure energy, was this also one of the unique traits of light profound energy? No. As she answered Xianxia's doubts, Shen Xi gave a light shake of her head. Light profound energy is not hard to control. On the contrary, it is the energy that is the easiest to control. It was just that I had originally thought that, besides me, there would no longer be a possibility for light profound energy to appear in this world. I had expected even less that it would appear inside your body. Why is that? Xianxia asked. Are there many extremely stringent requirements to meet before one can cultivate light profound energy? Xia Qingyu had said her divine power was unique in the entire universe. But this record of being unique in the entire universe was something that Xianxia had now broken. Furthermore, it had happened completely naturally, and one could even say that it had been pushed onto him rather than him actively trying to obtain it. Wait a minute. Could it be because of my evil god profound veins? It seemed like it was the most likely reason, and basically the only possible reason. Have you ever heard of the 4 great creation gods of the primordial era? She suddenly asked. Yes, this junior has indeed heard of them. Xianxia nodded his head. They were the heaven-punishing divine emperor Mo-yi, the creation goddess of life Li Xiu, the creation god of order Zai Qi, and the creation god of the elements, who would later be known as the evil god. Shen Xi lightly nodded her head before continuing. The origin of light profound energy was the creation goddess of life Li Xiu. Among the 4 great creation gods, Li Xiu's combat ability was the weakest, but she was the most loved and revered amongst them. She possessed the most honorable and respected sacred body and sacred heart in the universe, and she had created countless star realms, races, and living creatures throughout her entire life. Furthermore, her divine power of creation was the purest, strongest, and most original form of light profound energy. Moreover, the very first race that she created, do you know which was it? Xianxia. Shen Xi's lips parted and spoke a name that Xianxia could not be more familiar with, the wood spirits. Xianxia was fiercely jolted by those words. The wood spirit race was naturally born with the power of nature, but that is actually a form of life profound energy. Furthermore, this life profound energy is also derived from light profound energy. They inherited the unique power that Lord Li Xiu had gifted them, and they were also possessed of the purest hearts and beliefs. As the first race that Lord Li Xiu created, and a race that had been bestowed with a unique gift as well, the wood spirit race was the most revered and admired of the living creatures of the lower realms. But who would have thought that in a world without gods, everything that they possessed would paradoxically end up bringing them endless calamity? As such, the present wood spirit race has nearly completely withered away, and if their present circumstances continue, it is possible that they will die out entirely before too long. Her words contained a deep melancholy. Xianxia quietly listened to them, but at the same time his heart shook. He also noticed one small little detail. When she had mentioned Li Xiu, she had unconsciously called her Lord Li Xiu. She was the last user of light profound energy in the universe, and the wood spirit race had been created by the original light profound energy. Because of that, it could be said that she and the wood spirit race shared a special bond and history. It was no wonder that Shen Xi, who had never involved herself with the mortal realm, would save He Ling, and even deliberately brought her to this forbidden ground, which originally only had her as the sole resident. The creation god Li Xiu was the first creation god to fall after the heaven-punishing divine emperor had passed away. The heaven-punishing divine emperor had exhausted his lifespan through the overuse of the heaven-punishing ancestral sword. Li Xiu, however, was the first creation god to fall at the hands of the devil race, and her primordial seal of life and death had been taken as well. The reason she was the first to perish at the hands of the devil race was because the devil race were extremely terrified and apprehensive towards her light profound energy. During the era of gods, besides the creation goddess Li Xiu and the host of light gods beneath her, there was also a special race of gods, a god race that was subordinate to her that also possessed light profound energy. That race of gods were called the Sword Spirit God Clan. The name, Sword Spirit God Clan, caused the corner of Xianxia's eyes to fiercely twitch. Have you heard of that name before? Shen Xi seemed to be softly looking at him as she asked that question. I've heard of it. Xianxia nodded his head. Not only had he heard of it, he had even heard of it before he had arrived the god realm. At that time, Jasmine had told him that it was very likely that hunger had come from that special race of gods known as the Sword Spirit God Clan. Shen Xi did not pursue this matter any further. Instead, she continued, the Sword Spirit God Clan were a special race of gods that could transform into sword, and the swords that they transformed into were called the Devil Slayer swords. The reason why they were known as the Devil Slayer swords was also because they possessed light profound energy. So the swords they morphed into would naturally possess an extremely strong sacred energy, striking fear into the hearts of all the devils. The unique Devil Slayer sword that you control, even though it is not purely a Devil Slayer sword, also possesses sacred energy, so it counters and inhibits darkness profound energy to an extreme degree. If you have ever met any opponents who used darkness profound energy before, this point should have been made crystal clear to you. Xianxia did not know how he should reply. Instead, he brusquely switched the subject. Then why would it be nearly impossible for light profound energy to re-emerge? Shen Xi didn't him any further regarding the Devil Slayer swords, nor did she bring up hunger. Instead, she followed the flow of his conversation and continued. In order to cultivate light profound energy, one must possess a sacred body and a sacred heart. It has long ago become impossible for these things to appear in this world which grows dirtier and more flooded with desire by the day. Moreover, it is even less likely for you to have them. Sacred body, sacred heart. A sacred and stainless body or a sacred and pure heart. These were indeed two things that you could not beat out of him even if you used 100 sticks. Yet somehow, light profound energy had appeared inside his body in an extremely natural way. Even though you can't be considered evil yet, and you also possess a righteous and compassionate heart, your body has been stained by an unfathomable amount of blood and filth. Moreover, your heart and soul are filled with intense desires and a deep darkness. It should have been absolutely impossible for light profound energy to appear within you. She looked at Xianxia, and behind that white glow were two eyes which had contained shock and puzzlement ever since she had found out about this fact. I am also unable to understand why this has happened. Xianxia furrowed his brows before suddenly asking, did the evil god also possess light profound energy in the past? No, he did not, and it was also impossible for him to have possessed it. Shen Xi shook his head without the slightest bit of hesitation. Then could it be because of He Lin's wood spirit orb? Xianxia mumbled in a soft voice. Shen Xi still shook her head. The power of nature that the wood spirits possess originated from light profound energy, so even the royal wood spirit race would not be able to reach a level that is higher than light profound energy itself. Xianxia was stunned. Since it was something Shen Xi did not understand, it was more so impossible for him to understand. Perhaps this is the will of heaven as well. Shen Xi suddenly gave a very soft and wispy sigh. When she faced Xianxia after that, the look in her eyes seemed to have quietly undergone some sort of change as well. Xianxia, are you willing to take me as your teacher? Ah! These words that he had never expected and had come without any warning caused Xianxia to be immediately flabbergasted. Shen Xi looked into the distance as she gloomily said, when I had brought Linger back here all those years ago, it was also due to my own selfish desires. I did not want light profound energy to vanish from this universe after I'm gone. One important reason that motivated me to bring He Ling back was because the one race that is most likely to be able to cultivate light profound energy is a royal wood spirit. But, just as I had expected, even if it was He Ling, she was still unable to manifest light profound energy within her body. Shen Xi's words allowed Xianxia to understand her intentions. You want me to inherit your light divine powers? No. Shen Xi shook her head. Even though I do not know why, you already do possess light profound energy. So I want to take you as my pupil so I can teach you, and allow you to inherit the one and only radiant divine art in this universe. Radiant divine art. Just as Xianxia was about to ask a question, he suddenly sensed Shen Xi's aura move. At this time, her gaze also turned and looked at somewhere far away. An honored guest has arrived. Let us continue this conversation shortly after this. Remember, do not expose your light profound energy in front of anyone for now. An honored guest. Xianxia involuntarily turned around and looked towards where Shen Xi was looking. What kind of personage could actually be termed as an honored guest in the forbidden land of Samsara? Eastern Divine Region, Brahma Monarch God Realm. What's this? Xianxia Yinger's eyes snapped open, breaking her silence, and her crescent brows tightly knitted together. At her level, there were very few things in the world that could cause her to be so disturbed. What is Miss troubled by? Guzhu's ancient and hoarse voice rang out at her side. Xianxia Yinger coldly said, the Brahma soul death-wishing mark I inflicted on Xianxia, the spiritual reaction I am getting from it has actually grown several times weaker. Guzhu, there is no one who should be able to endure the torment inflicted by the Brahma soul death-wishing mark for 2 months. And it is even less likely for someone to suppress it. So just what exactly is going on? Xianxia Yinger's face grew more and more cold. No one understood better than her on just how dreadful or tyrannical the Brahma soul death-wishing mark was. No, Guzhu said in a mild voice, in this universe, there is indeed one person who could perhaps suppress Miss Brahma soul death-wishing mark, and it might even be possible for her to get rid of it altogether. That person is staying in the Dragon God realm. Guzhu's words caused Xianxia Yinger's eyebrows to tense up fiercely as a name, and a figure that forever seemed to be bathed in celestial mist simultaneously appeared in her mind. You are talking about the Dragon Queen. The light breeze that circulated within the forbidden land of Samsara stopped. Not a single bird or insect could be seen flying in the sky, and even the colorful butterflies which rested amongst the flowers had stopped flapping their wings. Xianxia did not sense any aura drawing near, but he clearly felt a kind of oppressive might which covered the skies and engulfed everything within it. If one did not personally experience it, perhaps no one would be able to believe that the oppressive might emitted by a single person could actually be this strong. It was so strong that it truly felt as if the heavens and earth were capsizing and turning over. Xianxia's heart seemed to grow sluggish as he thought. Could it be? At this moment, the figure of a person descended down from the heavens and landed on the earth of the forbidden land of Samsara. His figure was tall and broad. He was dressed in a gray robe, and there was no facial hair on his fair face. His appearance was exceptionally mild and gentle, but even the simple act of him standing in that place caused a vast heavenly might to engulf the entire world. It was a might that caused people to unconsciously desire to kneel to the ground and bend their heads as their very souls shook and trembled. There was only one person under the heavens that possessed this sort of oppressive might. The Dragon Monarch. He was the elder of the Dragon God race, the great realm king of the Dragon God realm, the emperor of the Western Divine region, the supreme ruler of the entire God realm, and also the one who was publicly acknowledged as #1 in the primal chaos dimension. There were 17 king realms in the God realm, and the other 16 realm kings of these king realms were adorned with the name of God Emperor. But only he was crowned with the title of monarch. Furthermore, this monarch was not to signify that he was the lord of all dragons or the ruler of the dragon god realm. It was to signify that he was the monarch amongst emperors. The strength of all the god emperors stood at the very zenith of the divine way. So it was hard to make an absolutely definitive judgment on who was weaker and who was stronger. It was only the dragon monarch who stood apart from the rest. His status as the #1 person in the primal chaos dimension was unshakable, and no one dared to doubt it. It had only been a few short months since Xianxia had seen him at the Profound God Convention. But Xianxia had once again personally come face to face with the #1 person in the primal chaos dimension, someone that he might not even hope to have an audience with even if he used up all of his life. Linger greets the Dragon Monarch. Linger, who had stood at Xianxia's side, made a deep bow. Upon the arrival of the Dragon Monarch, her expression had grown rather nervous, but it was not colored by any shock or surprise. Xianxia also hurriedly bowed to the Dragon Monarch as he said, "This junior Xianxia greets the Dragon Monarch." No wonder there was someone who could directly enter this place. It was because this someone was actually the Dragon Monarch himself. The entire Dragon God realm was the property of the Dragon Monarch. Even this forbidden land of Samsara had also been granted by the Dragon Monarch, so it was natural that he could come and go as he pleased. A pair of dragon eyes measured Xianxia as they swept over him before the Dragon Monarch gave a small smile. "Xianxia, it looks like there is some sort of destiny between you and I. It's only been a few short months, yet we meet again in the Western Divine region." Xianxia replied, "The favor Senior Dragon Monarch has shown me by giving me those pointers that day is something that this junior dares not forget. To be able to meet Senior yet again, even though this junior is terrified, I also feel extremely fortunate. It's just that Senior Dragon Monarch seems to have been informed long ago that this junior was in this place." The Dragon Monarch replied in a calm and tranquil manner, 2 months ago, I heard that someone brought forth the Dragon God Mark and desired to enter this place. Once I heard that, I knew that, without a doubt, it was you. It's just that I was just about to set off for the Eastern Divine region once again. If not, I would perhaps have come here much sooner myself." After he finished speaking, he looked in Shen Xi's direction, his calm gaze immediately colored by a gentleness that was not there on any other occasion. Journeying to the Eastern Divine region yet again, Xianxia's heart throbbed and he involuntarily asked, "If this junior may be so bold as to guess, Senior Dragon Monarch went there to personally inspect that crimson crack." "Oh," the Dragon Monarch looked to the side as he said, "You're indeed a very clever one." Shen Xi slowly strode forward before she spoke. "You should have found out something new from this journey. Share it with me?" "All right." The Dragon Monarch gave a small smile and his legs started to move. Within the span of a few breaths, he and Shen Xi had already left Xianxia and He Ling's field of vision. Xianxia stood up and looked in the direction that Shen Xi and the Dragon Monarch went, his heart filled with shock and astonishment. To think that Shen Xi actually did not need to bow when she came face to face with the Dragon Monarch. Furthermore, the Dragon Monarch himself did not assert any sort of authority or dominance when facing Shen Xi. Shen Xi and the Dragon Monarch who stood at the very pinnacle of the primal chaos dimension, to think they actually spoke as equals. Just what kind of person was she? In the northern part of the forbidden land of Samsara, the two peak existences within the dragon god realm stood together, a clear stream gurgling beside them. Every single word they were exchanging at present was undoubtedly extremely heavy and serious. So what is the situation? Shen Xi opened her mouth, her words concise and to the point. The Dragon Monarch's expression was calm, but his chest briefly rose and fell. It is far more terrifying than I had initially imagined. That crimson crack is far more enormous than what the eternal Heaven and Brahma Monarch had initially described. It is clear that it has been swiftly expanding all this while. Furthermore, its aura even caused me to feel fear and terror. Shen Xi? Oh! The Dragon Monarch's eyes grew slightly more focused. I had originally believed that I had long ago forgotten what fear was. But when I stood in front of that crack in the wall of primal chaos, my body actually started to shiver uncontrollably. Shen Xi said, "Given the power that the eternal Heaven Pearl possesses in this era, forcefully nurturing 1,000 powerhouses, is already the very limits of its ability. Such an act is definitely not something the eternal Heaven Realm can decide. It could only have originated from the eternal Heaven Pearl itself. So if even the eternal Heaven Pearl feels such fear and apprehension, then it is absolutely normal for you to feel fear. It seems like the Eastern Divine Region will suffer great calamity if that crimson crack truly ruptures one day." The Dragon Monarch's eyes gradually grew more hooded as he said, "I hope that the ensuing calamity will not affect the Western Divine Region when the time comes. Since you are speaking of it in such a manner, this means that even you are unable to determine how that crack came about," Shen Xi asked. The Dragon Monarch gave a faint nod of his head. "That crack should have appeared because of some sort of power outside of the primal chaos. It is also very likely something that transcends the knowledge of every single one of us." Shen Xi pondered those words in silence for a long time before replying in a soft voice. "It looks like I need to personally go there and inspect it myself. Perhaps I will be able to discover something." The Dragon Monarch shook his head. "That crack is located in the most eastern part of the primal chaos, given the maximum amount of time that you can be away from this place. You won't even be able to make the trip there, much less make a round trip. If it was like before, that would indeed be true." Shen Xi looked up as she spoke slowly. "However, it is good that I have already found a method to get rid of my fetters. Before too long, I will be able to leave this place." The Dragon Monarch's eyes shook as his body violently turned around it. "What did you say? I hope that I will make it in time." It was almost as if Shen Xi had not seen the Dragon Monarch's violent reaction as she gazed into the distance. The white glow surrounding her body was something that even the Dragon Monarch was unable to pierce. Have you truly found a method to leave this place?" The Dragon Monarch's expression rippled, and his breathing had grown disordered. He knew that since she had said such a thing, it definitely was not just empty words. "You said, before too long, just how long would this be exactly?" As he asked that question, nervousness and apprehension could actually be clearly seen in those shaking eyes. He was the Dragon Monarch, the supreme ruler of the primal chaos, whom all the myriad realms looked up to in reverence and respect. Even if an entire star realm crumbled before him, his expression would not change in the slightest. Yet at this time, he was reacting in a way that everyone in the world thought he should never ever need to. "If everything goes well, it will be within the next 10 years. Shen Xi said softly. The Dragon Monarch's body violently swayed. He had originally thought that this, before too long, would perhaps be 10,000 years or even a few thousand years, and that even if it was sooner, it would be longer than 1,000 years. But the words and the amount of time that rang in his ears were actually 10 years. An amount of time that had caught him unprepared and left him at a complete loss. An amount of time that he was entirely unable to accept. How could it be this fast? His breathing had grown disordered, and the moment he said those words, he realized that they were inappropriate. He shook his head and sighed before speaking. "You have been trapped in this place for so many years, so finally being able to be free from this place is naturally an extremely good thing. It's just that, after you leave this place, have you thought of where you are going to go next? And where will we be able to meet again after this?" Compared to the strange emotional state of the dragon monarch, Shen Xi had remained as calm as a secluded spring from start to finish. It was as if the prospect of finally being freed from her binding, which had lasted hundreds of thousands of years, did not create many ripples in her heart. If we are fated to do so in the future, we will naturally meet again. If we are not fated to do so, then perhaps we will never meet each other again. Where are you going to go? Before Shen Xi's voice had even fell, the dragon monarch had already started asking his questions. You have always stayed in this place all of these years, and even if you have left occasionally, you have never left the dragon god realm, so where can you go? Have you really never thought of staying in the dragon god domain? All of your kinsmen are there, and there will be nothing to bind you there. You will have complete freedom, and you will be able to do whatever you want. And if you want anything, I can. You have forgotten yourself, Shen Xi softly said as she turned around. Those 4 words which were as light and airy as the wind hit the dragon monarch with great force. His face froze completely, and following that, he slowly closed his eyes. He remained in a deep silence for a long period of time before the rise and fall of his chest went back to normal. After that, he gave a self-deprecating laugh before saying, "During these years, has the number of times that I've forgotten myself in front of you been very small? You must remember, you are the dragon monarch," Shen Xi said. "Currently, the entire primal chaos realm is under your rule. Anyone else can lose heart, but only you are not allowed to. Perhaps it is only after I leave this place that your dragon heart will truly be free of any and all gaps." The dragon monarch's eyes remained closed. He did his best to remain calm, but his face, which normally radiated a natural heavenly might even when he was not angry, was now twisted up in pain. "After I leave this place, you can announce to the public that my lifespan has reached its end, and you should have long ago found a true dragon queen as well." The dragon monarch slowly shook his head as he sighed. "It is hard for one who has seen the blue ocean to settle for water. Do you truly think that I will ever in this life be able to accept anyone else?" Shen Xi gave another melancholy sigh as she said, "It's already been more than 300,000 years. The height that you have reached is something that no one under heaven can equal. If you point a single finger to the sky, it will be able to cover the sky and block the sun. So why is it that this one thing?" "No." The dragon monarch shook his head with extreme veneration. "From the very start, I have already understood this very well. I have never had any expectations of you, not the slightest bit. Even though I had taken step after step to finally become the dragon emperor and become the monarch of all the realms after, I never thought I was worthy of your favor. In this universe, there isn't a single person who is worthy of staining even the smallest part of you. Shen Xi, during these years, being able to look at you every now and then has already been the greatest satisfaction in my life, and in this universe, only I am able to be so close to you. But now that it has come to this," as he said every word, his expression grew more and more pained, "have the heavens finally decided to withdraw this favor that they have bestowed upon me?" Shen Xi gave a melancholy sigh once more. "There is no need for you to do this. I do not desire to impede your freedom. I just want to—" The dragon monarch's hands clenched together, and he actually spoke rather incoherently due to the great chaos raging about in his dragon heart. "At least, let me repay the great debt of gratitude that I owe you for what you did for me all those years ago. At least, Shen Xi, if you had not given me the title of Dragon Queen all those years ago and made this place a forbidden ground, I would not have been able to live here in such peace and comfort for so many years. Thus, the favor that I did for you in the past has already been paid back in full. It isn't paid back, it hasn't been paid back yet. The debt of gratitude one owes for having his life saved, how can that ever be repaid?" As the words left his mouth, his expression froze once again, as if he himself had never thought that he would forget himself to this extent. Shen Xi remained silent for a long time, and the dragon monarch had never understood what she was thinking before either. In fact, even he did not know of Shen Xi's true past and origins, because he had vowed to Shen Xi that as long as she was unwilling, he would not ask her anything, and for all these many years it has always been so. He was so formidable and superior to the rest of the world, but in front of Shen Xi, he was just as petty and low in front of her as he was exalted by other people. But he had always been more than willing for it to be this way. The world had grown quiet, and this time, the dragon monarch had used that long period of time to barely recover some of his composure. "You have been trapped in this place for so many years. To finally gain a new lease on life, I should be extremely happy for you instead." The corners of the dragon monarch's mouth curled up as if he wanted to smile but could not find the strength in him to actually do it. 10 years, 10 years, at the very least. There are still 10 more years. Those last words were said in a very soft voice, as if he was whispering those words in his heart. But a mournful desolateness passed through his eyes. It was the kind of sorrow one experienced when the most precious thing in one's life was about to leave them and go somewhere far away. Since you have already prepared to leave the dragon god realm, then can you tell me where you intend to go after leaving this place? He asked, even though he did not expect to obtain an answer from her. Shen Xi softly replied, I have already found my next abode. There is no need for you to worry. Did you previously see Senior Dragon Monarch come often? While the Dragon Monarch and Shen Xi were discussing important matters, Xianxia and He Ling, these two juniors, were also quietly whispering to each other. Amen, He Ling nodded her head. Even though the Dragon God domain is very far away from here, the Dragon Monarch would still visit very often. Most of the time, he would come here once every month or two, and even if the gap between visits was longer, it would not exceed half a year. This time, the Dragon Monarch had an important matter to attend to in the Eastern Divine region. If not, you would probably have met him quite a while back. Every month or two, Xianxia said, shock filling his heart. Given the lifespan of the dragon race, every month or two was not much different from a human's every day or two. Leaving aside the fact the distance between this place and the Dragon God domain, given the Dragon Monarch's position, this happened with such frequency that it boggled the mind. That's right. He Ling rested her chin on her hands as she spoke in a very moved voice. Furthermore, I heard from Master that he has done this for hundreds of thousands of years already. The Dragon Monarch is truly, deeply, and irrevocably smitten and devoted to Master. Xianxia slowly turned his head around, an incomparably weird look appearing on his face. The Dragon Monarch has always been deeply smitten and devoted to Senior Shen Xi. Wait. Even though I've only been in the God realm for a very short period of time, even I have heard that the Dragon Monarch has very deep feelings for the Dragon Queen, and that he's only ever loved the Dragon Queen in his entire life. Furthermore, he has not taken a single concubine over these hundreds of thousands of years. So how could he also feel this way towards Senior Shen Xi? He Ling's beautiful eyes swiveled towards him as she looked at him with an astonished expression on her face. Could it be that you've been ignorant of it all this time? Master, she is the... Before He Ling had even finished speaking, she suddenly felt like it was hard to breathe. That was because an intimidating oppressive might had descended from the heavens and had come very close to them. The Dragon Monarch. The two people hurriedly got up and bowed at the same time. The Dragon Monarch slowly walked forward until he faced Xianxia. He gave a small sigh before speaking. Xianxia, she is indeed the only person in this universe that can purge you of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark that you have been afflicted with. Even though you met with a great disaster, being able to come to this place means that you've turned your calamity into a blessing. You are the only male that she has ever been willing to accept in this place over all these many years, so you should know that this is a gigantic opportunity for you. Yes, this junior will always bear that in mind. Upon hearing He Ling say that, the Dragon Monarch has always been deeply smitten and devoted to Master. He felt his heart twist, and he also felt some dread bubbling up in his heart. The ambition of this girl Xianxia is extremely big, and her methods are vicious and cruel. The fact that she looked for and seized an opportunity to make her move against you doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It was also for this reason that I advised you to come to my Dragon God realm at that time. The Dragon Monarch gave him a look, his eyes filled with goodwill and benevolence. At the very least, he definitely did not covet him the way Xianxia Yinger did. After you have gotten rid of your Brahma soul death-wishing mark, come to my Dragon God domain. Even though you are not of the dragon race, the dragon soul that you possess naturally gives you the qualifications to enter the Dragon God domain. At least my Dragon God race will be able to protect you and ensure your safety in the Dragon God domain. The Dragon Monarch's eyes grew melancholy, distant, and hooded. No matter what your heart desires, there is something that you must remember. Life is more important than anything else. Even if you don't have any freedom in the Dragon God domain, it is far, far better than losing your life in the Eastern Divine region. I thank Senior Dragon Monarch for his advice. The words of Senior Dragon Monarch are something that Xianxia will always bear in mind, Xianxia said in a solemn manner. When I consider what path to take in the future, this junior will definitely cautiously think through it. The Dragon Monarch gave a faint nod of his head. He could hear from Xianxi's words that he still did not have the intention of staying in the Dragon God realm. At least that was the case for the time being anyways. Senior seems to be in a rather somber mood, Xianxi asked. Could it be because of the crimson crack? The dragon monarch's eyes grew dull before he gave a placid laugh. Every living creature in the world will have things that do not go according to their own wishes, even if I am the dragon monarch. This is also something that is unavoidable. What sort of thing could exist in this universe that would not go according to the wishes of Senior Dragon Monarch? Xianxi asked again. The dragon monarch shook his head and replied, You are still young, so you naturally wouldn't understand. As he said those words, he turned to the side and took to the air, vanishing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Xianxi stood to his feet, and as he pondered He Ling and the dragon monarch's words, his scalp suddenly started to tingle as his internal organs started shuddering, and they shuddered rather furiously at that. Shen Xi was the person whom the dragon monarch adored. This was FC King. Xianxi turned around and stared at He Ling as he said, So what sort of relationship do the dragon monarch and Senior Shen Xi have anyways? Xianxi's weird behavior caused slight shock to appear on He Ling's face. Oh, so you really didn't know, huh? I had actually thought that, actually, Master, she is... Ah, Master. Xianxi turned around only to find that Shen Xi had already arrived and landed in front of them, the wind gently curling around her. Since the honored guest has already left, let us continue where we left off. Xianxi did not sense any ripples in Shen Xi's emotions in regards to the arrival and departure of the dragon monarch. It was as if the number one person in the primal chaos, a man who could cause the entire universe to quake around him, was only a small mote of ordinary dust to Shen Xi, a small mote of dust that she had welcomed and sent on its way. Are you referring to the matter of me taking you as my master? They had just had sex for an entire day and night yesterday, but today she actually wanted him to take her as his master. This, coupled with the earth-shattering words that He Ling had said, caused him to be completely mystified and bewildered by the thoughts, actions, and behavior of Shen Xi. It was not only her outer appearance and her body that were concealed, her entire existence seemed to be hidden within a cloud of thick and dense fog. Shen Xi looked at him, and it seemed as if she sensed the weird thoughts in his heart and mind. A complex look that a normal person would not be able to understand appeared in her eyes. In regards to that matter, I have changed my mind for now. Changed her mind. Xianxi was stumped by those words. Why did she suddenly change her mind? It was only the dragon monarch who had come during this intervening period. Could it be that the reason for her changing her mind was the dragon monarch? Shen Xi took a step forward and suddenly extended a hand, lightly grasping Xianxi's left wrist. As his wrist was being lightly held by her jade hand, the feeling of snowy jade and tender flesh caused a bizarre weakness to run through Xianxi's entire body. She not only had a fantastically dreamy and beautiful appearance, even her body seemed to contain some sort of magic, a magic that could cause any man's will to collapse, cause them to go completely crazy, and even cause them to sink into a deep abyss for all eternity. Release your sky poison pearl and bring it out, she suddenly said. Even though his heart was filled with suspicion, Xianxi still did as he was told. With a single thought, the palm of his left hand immediately shone with a dark green light. After that, the illusory image of the sky poison pearl slowly appeared in the air. Xianxi said, The sky poison pearl has already been completely fused with my body. It isn't possible for it to appear independently, so I can only summon an image of it. Shen Xi's gaze only lingered on the sky poison pearl for a brief period of time before she softly muttered to herself, As expected, Xianxi. Xianxi, after you obtained the sky poison pearl, you should always have wondered why its poison was so weak, Shen Xi said in a soft and gentle voice. Xianxi was stunned by those words, and he immediately nodded his head. Could it be that Senior Shen Xi knows why? During his life in the Azure Cloud continent, his heart had been filled with hate and vengeance after Yungu died. For the sake of vengeance, he had crazily released the poison within the sky poison pearl, taking the lives of countless living creatures with its poison. He had done so until all of the poison within the sky poison pearl had been exhausted, and not a single bit of poison power remained in it. After that, his body had merged with the sky poison pearl, and he had awoken in the profound sky continent. Ever since then, the sky poison pearl's ability to cleanse, sense, and refine remained, but it did not have any poison power left, not even the smallest bit of it. He had originally thought that it was because he had completely emptied it, and it needed time to recover. But many years had already gone by, and it still did not possess any poison power. It was only after he returned to the Azure Cloud continent, and to his amazement, came across another sky poison pearl, that he knew that the poison origin of the sky poison pearl had been left in the Azure Cloud continent. After he retrieved the poison origin, he had thought that the sky poison pearl would finally start to regain its poison power. But even though the poison power was indeed recovering slowly, it was just that this slowly was a tad too slow. A distinguished and grand heavenly profound treasure, the sky poison pearl, had only recovered that teensy little bit of poison power, an amount that was not even enough to poison a profound practitioner who had just entered the divine way to death to the current Xianxia. It did not even have the tiniest bit of use. This was also something Xianxia had always been suspicious about, to the point where he suspected whether he had actually retrieved a fake poison source back then. "Its poison spirit is dead," Shen Xi said in slow and measured tones. "Poison spirit," Xianxia said pensively. All of the heavenly profound treasures had a spiritual consciousness, and it was a very high-ranked spiritual consciousness at that. However, this sky poison pearl that has merged with you, its spirit is already dead, and it should have been dead for a very long time. Without a spirit to call its own, the sky poison pearl would be no different from a vegetable who was still alive and breathing but had not will of their own. Xianxia, without a poison spirit, even though your sky poison pearl still possesses its basic abilities, it will never be able to produce poison, and even if it can do so, it will only be able to produce the lowest level of poison. So even before it merged with you, anybody who obtained it could control it freely, even though it would still be hard for them to do so. Xianxia's heart throbbed intensely. Shen Xi's words were right on the money. When they had obtained the sky poison pearl in the Azure Cloud continent all those years ago, no matter whether it was Yun Gu or him, either one of them was able to freely use it. They did not need its approval. But at the same time, they could also never fully control it, and an example of that was its poison power going out of control. Poison spirit, so it was because it did not have a poison spirit. I should have thought of this point long ago, Xianxia muttered in his heart. During the primordial era, the frenzied and berserking evil infant's wheel of myriad tribulations merged with the power of the evil infant, and the sky poison to release the poison, the myriad tribulations, which wiped out all of the gods and devils. Perhaps it was from that moment on that the poison spirit of the sky poison pearl had died. Given the dreadfulness of the evil infant's wheel of myriad tribulations, it also did indeed have the power to kill the sky poison pearl's poison spirit. Once she had said this, Shen Xi's tone suddenly changed. Given your current ability, taking revenge on Xianxia Yinger is an absolute impossibility. And if you wanted to cultivate until you reached the stage where you could go head-to-head with Xianxia, it would still take you many long years, even given your absolutely unique talents and natural endowments. If you truly want to take revenge on Xianxia Yinger in the shortest amount of time, then the poison power of the sky poison pearl will be the greatest thing that you can rely on. Xianxia's eyes glimmered. So your words are telling me that you want me to think of a way to revive the poison spirit of the sky poison pearl? Shen Xi did not answer his question, but instead said in a soft voice, "And that is why I want you to help Linger take revenge." Xianxia was stunned by those words, but after that he swiftly looked to the side. "Could it be that you want He Ling to become the sky poison pearl's poison spirit?" He Ling, who had been quietly listening all this while, raised her head then, ripples glistening in her beautiful eyes. The sky poison pearl is one of the heavenly profound treasures, and it stands at the pinnacle of the primal chaos. So how can its poison spirit be so easy to revive? Shen Xi's gaze shifted to the wood spirit girl. But Linger, as the descendant of the wood spirit royal family, a tribe which possesses the purest souls, is not only the only person in this universe who can do it, she is also the last person in the universe that can become the sky poison pearl's poison spirit. Furthermore, this is also the only way she will ever be able to personally take revenge. Xianxia was stunned by those words, but the wood spirit girl was stunned as well. The gloomy green waves began tossing in the depths of her eyes, and they were incomparably fierce and intense. And they were only getting stronger. "No, this won't do. This absolutely won't do." Xianxia shook his head. He had shaken his head in a manner which could not be more resolute, and he had said no 3 times consecutively, even though his life experiences could not even be considered superficial. When compared to Shen Xi, how could he not know what becoming an artifact spirit meant? Even though the sky poison pearl was an extremely high-level artifact, in the end it was still an item. If He Ling truly became the Sky Poison Pearl's poison spirit, it would also mean that she would be forever tied to the Sky Poison Pearl and himself, and she would no longer have any freedom or independence. He Ling had saved his life, and this, coupled with the fact that He Lin had entrusted her to him, caused him to have very special emotions in regards to He Ling. She was someone he wanted to protect and repay with all of his strength. So how could he allow her to become his own poison spirit just so he could awaken the poison power of the Sky Poison Pearl? Shen Xi was not the least bit shocked at his reaction. She said in a soft and gentle voice, "Xianxia, you must definitely be thinking that this is simply sacrificing her, and given your temperament, this isn't something you can accept. But do you still remember what I said to you a month ago, Xianxia? Given He Ling's current state, only you can save her. Moreover, the best method of saving her would be to allow her to become your Sky Poison spirit." Shen Xi's gaze shifted, and Xianxia also unconsciously looked towards He Ling in that instant, his eyes intensely focused. In the depths of He Ling's beautiful eyes, he could see an incomparably resplendent viridian light. It was as if her heart and soul, which had already turned into dead ashes, had suddenly been reborn and had started to burn with a glorious light. When he had first laid his eyes upon He Ling 2 months ago, her beautiful emerald eyes were something that Xianxia would find hard to forget for the rest of his life. But after that, her heart had fallen into an abyss of despair, causing those beautiful eyes to become incomparably dull and gloomy, and it seemed as if it would eternally stay that way. But at this moment, her eyes seemed to shine even brighter and more soul-stirringly than they had when he had first seen them. "Master, if I become the Sky Poison spirit, will I really be able to do like you said, and personally take my revenge?" He Ling's voice was very soft, and every word faintly quivered as they left her lips. Even though she possessed the best and purest wood spirit bloodline, she could exhaust all of her life and resources, and that still would not be anywhere near enough to challenge an existence on the level of the Brahma monarch god realm. Not even a little bit. If she truly wanted to take revenge, the only choice that she had was to rely on other people. So when the dark seed of revenge had been planted in her heart, in reality, it was the same as sending herself into a bottomless abyss. Personally taking revenge, this was a hope that was basically impossible to fulfill for her. If it could truly become a reality, then she was willing to throw away everything for the chance. Shen Xi had not been the least bit surprised by He Ling's reaction. She sighed softly in her heart before she gently said, "The Sky Poison Pearl's poison is something that could even poison to death the gods and devils from the era of gods. However, given the current environment within today's primal chaos, even when it awakens its poison power, that poison power will be a pale shadow of what it was, and it probably won't be enough to murder gods anymore. But even if one has reached the very limits of the divine master realm, that person would still merely be a false god, a common spirit that is still below that of a true god. So if the Sky Poison Pearl recovers enough of its poison power, we don't even need to discuss whether it can kill a select few people within the Brahma monarch god realm. Even poisoning the entire Brahma monarch god realm to death would be well within the realm of possibility." Even Xianxia experienced great shock when he heard Shen Xi's words. Over all these years, he had possessed a Sky Poison Pearl that practically did not have any poison power. Because it had been such a long time, he had grown rather accustomed to ignoring the fact that its true strength lay in its poison power. After all, it was the Sky Poison Pearl. However, it was in the same boat as the eternal heaven god realm's eternal heaven pearl. Even if the current Sky Poison Pearl regained all of its poison power, it would not be comparable to what it held in the past. But an extremely skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. And if the Sky Poison Pearl, which once buried the entire era of gods and devils, managed to awaken its poison power once again and exposed its sharp fangs, then it would still be one of the most dreadful existences in this universe. Being able to poison to death the entire Brahma monarch god realm was absolutely not just empty talk. It was just that. Shen Xi's words caused the light in He Ling's eyes to flourish even brighter. She turned towards Xianxia, a deep excitement and desire in her eyes. "Xianxia, let me become the Sky Poison spirit. Please, please let me become the Sky Poison spirit." He Ling's gaze caused Xianxia's chest to feel incomparably stifled and heavy. "He Ling, listen to me earnestly." Xianxia stared into her eyes, his expression solemn. "The present you is a wood spirit, and you're even the last descendant of the wood spirit royal family at that. So you also bear the weight of being the last and most important hope of the wood spirit race. If you become the sky poison spirit, you will lose your current existence. And you will only be able to attach yourself to the sky poison pearl, and me to continue existing. You will have no self, no freedom, and this will continue on forever. It will also be nearly impossible to ever reverse this decision. So are you truly willing to do so? Xianxia had originally believed that his words would at least stir up He Ling's heart. However, after he had finished speaking, he did not detect a single bit of turmoil or doubt in He Ling's eyes. On the contrary, he sensed that a pleading that bored holes in his heart had been added there. The wood spirit royal family has already been cut off. There is no future for us. Furthermore, us wood spirits only possess the weakest and most impotent powers, but the universe is filled with boundless sin and greed. So what hope do we still have left? Xianxia. The wood spirit royal family has reached its end, and I am the only survivor. He Ling shook her head, her words distressed and desolate. I couldn't even protect He Lin, so just the fact that I'm still alive is already an unforgivable sin. Please, at least let me live on in peace. Let me take revenge. I am willing to take you as my master. Anything is fine, even if I will still not be able to take my revenge in the future. I will still definitely not regret this. So I beg you to agree to this. Her words and her current appearance caused Xianxia to gradually start to truly understand what Shen Xi meant when she said the word, save. Living was already an unforgivable sin. The hatred in her heart was not only directed at the Brahma monarch god realm, it was also directed at herself, and the latter had undoubtedly caused her even more despair. Those eyes which had turned dull and gray after she had found out everything, and the dark green tears she shed were things that Xianxia would never forget for the rest of his life. Xianxia sighed gloomily in his heart before spitting out a fierce rant. This goddamned destiny, to think it would actually push such a kind and pure girl to this extent. Xianxia, Shen Xi said, your current strength is still feeble, yet you are facing the most dreadful enemies in the universe. If you do not want to repeat the disastrous events that led to the Brahma soul death-wishing mark, then you need to be able to find something that can help you resist an existence like Kai in the shortest amount of time. Moreover, the sky poison pearl is the best and only choice that the heavens themselves have bestowed upon you. He Ling is the only existence in this world that can become the sky poison spirit. If you miss out on her, then the poison power of the sky poison pearl will never be truly awakened. Furthermore, she also greatly desires the power to take revenge. The fact that the two of you not only met, but also share such compatible destinies nearly seems to be some sort of heaven-destined fate. Why must you persist in hesitating and rejecting it? Xianxia remained silent for a long time as his expression fluctuated. Now that he was confined to this place, Kai was prowling outside, glaring at him like a tiger eyeing its prey. In this kind of situation, being able to awaken the sky poison pearl's poison power was something that should have made him go wild with joy. Yet why did it just have to be He Ling? Even if she was more than willing, even if he was well aware that this was actually a form of salvation for He Ling, he still found it extremely hard to accept in his heart of hearts. Because she was He Lin's big sister, the person whom He Lin had entrusted to him with the very last tears he would shed with the last bits of his life. So how could he? Shen Xi knew why Xianxia found it hard to accept this situation, so she gave him some advice. Becoming the sky poison spirit will indeed cause Linger to lose control of her own destiny, and her fate from today onwards would no longer be something that she can decide freely. Instead, it will be in the hands of the person she is relying on, and that person is you. That is also to say that, if she does become the sky poison spirit, whether her future shines brilliantly or is dull and gloomy will be entirely up to you. Xianxia's eyes shook intensely. As for her existence, she will not be deprived of it. On the contrary, when it comes to levels of existence, the sky poison spirit is far higher than that of a wood spirit. Shen Xi's words had undoubtedly made a heavy impact against the 2 points that Xianxia found hardest to accept. He shook his head before finally saying, He Ling, I understand everything. But before the Brahma soul death-wishing mark on my body has been removed, I have no choice but to remain in this place. So after I have completely escaped the clutches of this curse and am about to depart, if you are still willing to do so, then I will agree to it. These words seemed as if they were giving He Ling time to consider, but in actuality, it was for the sake of giving him enough time to accept this arrangement. All right, He Ling said as she looked at him and nodded with smiling eyes. As long as you don't reject me, I am willing to listen to and follow you in all things. Sigh, Xi shook his head. You really don't have to do this. Master, thank you. He Ling will never forget the great favor that you have shown me. He Ling bowed to Shen Xi as tears slid down her face. 3 years ago, Shen Xi had saved her life, and now with the matter regarding the sky poison spirit. Shen Xi had once again given her a new lease on life. But after becoming the sky poison spirit, she would forever follow Xi and would no longer be able to attend to her by her side. Shen Xi gave a melancholy sigh. Underneath the white light that curled up around her, no one could see the current look she had in her eyes. After that, she softly said, Linger, I understand better than anybody what your thoughts and desires are, because you and I share the same destiny. He Ling's eyes grew misty, and she was unable to understand the meaning behind those words. You and He Ling share the same destiny? Xi asked, his expression similarly baffled. Senior Shen Xi, what do you mean by that? Shen Xi gave a faint shake of her head, but she did not address the doubts of either of the two people. Instead, she changed the subject as she said, Xi, the matter of the sky poison spirit does not only concern the Linger's future, it will also decide your own. In fact, your situation is far worse than Linger's situation. As a result, you need that sky poison spirit far more than Linger does. Yet when it came to this matter, Linger was far more firm than you were. Right now, what you need to do is not to hesitate, but to reflect on yourself. Xi said, I am not an indecisive and irresolute person who is too compassionate or a person who can't do what needs to be done. It's just that He Ling, she's not the same. It has nothing to do with that. Shen Xi's voice was as soft as cotton, yet it hid a degree of spiritual pressure. It is clear that your heart very much desires the revival of the Sky Poison Pearl's power, yet you reject the notion of He Ling becoming the Sky Poison spirit so vehemently. In the end, is it more for He Ling's sake, or is it more for the sake of your own peace of mind? These words jolted Xi fiercely, and he was unable to reply for a long time. I will ask you an even more important question once more. She took a single step forward and stood right in front of Xi. Following a light movement of her jade fingers, the white glow surrounding her body gradually started to fade. Immediately, her celestial figure, which was even more fantastical than a dream itself, once more appeared in front of Xi's eyes. Immediately, Xi's eyes turned blank, and besides Shen Xi, there was nothing else in his vision. It was as if the only thing in the world that possessed any color or luster was her. It was clearly not the first time he had seen this. He had clearly spent an entire dreamlike day and night making love to her. Yet he was still instantly robbed of all his senses. Her beauty seemed to transcend the limits of what the human mind could bear. She was beautiful to the point where it was nearly terrifying. So beautiful that it was well and truly enough to topple nations and bring disaster to the world. Every single scene from yesterday came crazily flooding into Xi's head, throwing his thoughts into great chaos and causing all of the blood in his body to surge uncontrollably. Within a few short breaths, the thought of roughly pushing her down and pounding her violently once more surfaced in his head on no less than 10 occasions, even if he was still very aware that He Ling was still beside them. Both of He Ling's hands covered her mouth as she stood completely dazed and enraptured before Shen Xi's celestial countenance. Xi, she softly cooed, that sweet and gentle voice seeming to come from some distant celestial realm. Yesterday, you pushed me down on the bed and sullied my body, robbing me of my chastity and my vital yin in that case. Have you ever thought of owning me and making me forever yours alone? The dazed He Ling's beautiful eyes widened, and following that, her pretty face immediately lost all of its color, as if she did not dare to believe her own ears at all, as if she did not dare to believe any word she had just heard. Xi's throat made a loud gulping sound. Perhaps there was not a more simple question than this in the entire universe. The greatest pursuits that a man could think of were to reach the pinnacle of strength, to attain the pinnacle of power, and to obtain the pinnacle of beauty. And Shen Xi was undoubtedly the pinnacle of beauty furthermore. She was far greater than just that alone. Other than her appearance, her exalted status, that celestial figure that seemed to always hover in the peaks of the clouds above, that sacred and holy aura which caused people to humble themselves and not feel afraid of profaning her, and that air of mystery that felt as if it could never be pierced. If one could win such a woman for himself, forget about a lifetime or even a day. If one had such a woman for even a few instants, it would cause nearly all men to go completely crazy. Everything that had happened yesterday seemed like a dream, and Xi still felt as if he had not woken up completely. He understood even less why Shen Xi was so willing to let him defile her. But no matter what, he would not dare to hope to obtain her, and he expected even less for her to say the words that she had just said. Don't be so quick in answering that question. Shen Xi's gaze grew more deep and distant. Just now, it seemed as if you were asking Linger what my relationship with the Dragon Monarch was, and Linger seemed to have told you that the Dragon Monarch has always adored me. In that case, if I truly am the person whom the Dragon Monarch adores, tell me, would you still dare? Xianxi's chest heaved as he spoke with furrowed brows. Why don't you first tell me who exactly you are, and why exactly are you acting like this towards me? He discovered that he was understanding Shen Xi less and less. He was practically naked in front of her, as all of his secrets, all of his thoughts, and even things he had not detected about himself yet, were laid bare in front of her with a single word. Furthermore, even though she had chosen to reveal her true appearance to him, right now, Xianxi felt that the fog around her was growing denser and denser. Master, the words you just said, are they all true? He Ling's expression had changed completely. She felt as if she had heard the most unbelievable thing in her entire life. Shen Xi was ever cool and graceful. She gently said, if you have heard of my name, Shen Xi, then you should also have heard of the name of the Dragon Queen. Yet it seems like you are unaware of this fact. In the eyes of the world, the Dragon Queen Shen Xi is the complete title. Xianxi's expression and gaze violently changed at the same time. You are the Dragon Queen. When he had heard from He Ling that the Dragon Monarch would visit the forbidden land of Samsara every month or two, and that he was completely infatuated with Shen Xi, and that this was a fact that nearly everyone knew, the notion that Shen Xi was the Dragon Queen did flash in his mind. But that notion was completely nipped in the bud the very next instant. But now that he had heard Shen Xi personally say those words, he was so shocked and alarmed that he still found himself unable to believe it. His head jerked up as he said, That's not right. That's not possible. You still had your vital yin, so how could you be the Dragon Queen? The Dragon Queen and Goddess, those two women who were famed in the God realm for monopolizing all the pinnacles of beauty in the universe. Given the celestial beauty of Shen Xi's face, if she were the Dragon Queen, she would definitely not be unworthy of that name. On the contrary, it would not be the least bit exaggerated to assume she was the Dragon Queen. If the events of yesterday had not happened, he would definitely believe those words. But after the day and night that had just taken place, how could he believe that Shen Xi was actually the Dragon Queen? Everyone in the God realm knew that the Dragon Queen was the queen of the Dragon God race, the wife of the number one person in the primal chaos, the Dragon Monarch. As she looked at Xianxi's clearly contorted expression, He Ling timidly uttered, Master, she is really the Dragon Queen. Xianxi, there is no need for you to feel that it's strange, and there is also no need for you to feel that you did anything wrong, Shen Xi said in a soft and cottony voice. The Dragon Queen is indeed the title that the rest of the world has given me, but it is merely just a title. It does not signify that I am the queen of the dragon race, and it means even less that I am the queen of the Dragon Monarch. The Dragon Queen that exists in the minds of the rest of the world is something that has never existed. Xianxi was stunned for several breaths before he recalled that He Ling had said that Shen Xi was bound to this place for some reason and that she was unable to leave. He had started to make some conjectures about that, but upon recalling what he had done with her, he still felt his scalp go numb. Exactly what kind of relationship do you and the Dragon Monarch have? If it isn't what it looks like, then why are you called the Dragon Queen? Shen Xi did not try to hide anything. She merely said in a cool voice, It was only by bestowing me the title of Dragon Queen that he allowed me to stay in this place in peace and quiet for so many years. This could be considered a form of repayment to me, and it is something I wished for. However, in my eyes, the Dragon Monarch from the beginning until now has always been a junior. Nior, this reply stunned both Xianxi and He Ling. 350,000 years ago, when I met him for the first time, he was even younger than you are. He should have been no more than 20 years back then. Shen Xi slowly recounted her tale. At that time, he had been harmed by his own race, and he was thrown into a barren wasteland. His entire body was crippled, and he could not even see or speak. He merely waited for his death in despair. At that time, the sight of him aroused my compassion. So I saved him, and I used light, profound energy to help him restore his eyes and his tongue, and I even helped rebuild his meridians and profound veins. She gave Xianxi a look before continuing. The dragon is the ruler of all living creatures. So the dragon god race has always been the strongest and most sacred race in the god realm. In the eyes of the world, they are proud creatures that possess an extremely strong sense of dignity and decorum. Creatures who will never condescend themselves to partake in any despicable or repulsive acts. Yet they are unaware that the fights within the dragon race are perhaps even darker and more sinister than those of you humans. It is just that none of you see it, that's all. Shen Xi's words had indeed heavily toppled the knowledge Xianxia had of the dragon race. He had never expected that the monarch of the dragon race, a person whose tyrannical might cowed the rest of the universe, a person who had no equal in this universe, actually had such a tragic and terrible past. His entire body had been crippled, and even his eyes and tongue had been destroyed. Just the thought of that alone sent a shiver down one's spine. After experiencing that despair, his temperament and personality greatly changed. He, a person who had originally had no ambition, then possessed an extremely vigorous ambition, an ambition that had been birthed due to his hatred and resentment. He was also no longer merciful to his own race after that, and he climbed up step by step, until he finally became the dragon monarch. That is also to say that without you, there wouldn't be the current dragon monarch, Xianxia mumbled as if he was talking to himself. Shen Xi gave a faint shake of her head. From the moment I rescued him, I sensed that he looked at me in a peculiar manner. Furthermore, this kind of gaze was one that I had seen far too often in my lifetime. I had originally thought that everything would slowly fade away as time went by. But after a few hundred years, a few thousand years, and after tens of thousands of years, his feelings remained as they had been since the beginning. The day he finally became the dragon monarch, he told me that he had staked all he had to become the ruler of the dragon race, just so he could be worthy of me, even though he clearly knew that it was absolutely impossible for anything to happen between the two of us. He was also not willing to let it go. She gave a soft sigh before speaking. The act of saving him all those years ago has also seemed to have harmed him just as much. For more than 300,000 years, she had been indifferent towards the feelings the dragon monarch had for her. In fact, she had never paid them any mind before, but now that Xianxia had appeared, she was left with no choice but to pay attention to this matter. Xianxia remained silent for a very long time. Even though Shen Xi had made it short and sweet, it was enough for Xianxia to more or less understand the situation. Given Shen Xi's beauty and elegance, the number of admirers she had in the past was definitely no less than the number of admirers the goddess currently had. However, after she had obtained the title of Dragon Queen, and after this place had been made into a forbidden ground, there would no longer be anyone in the universe that could disturb her peace and quiet. This could be considered a form of repayment by the dragon monarch towards Shen Xi. Yet how did these actions also not contain the selfish motives and desires of the dragon monarch? Even though the dragon monarch possessed 10,000 times more experience than he had, Xianxia was able to understand the strong dedication the dragon monarch had towards Shen Xi. Shen Xi had saved him when he had been the most helpless he had ever been in his life, had saved him when he had fallen into complete despair. This fact, coupled with her elegant beauty, a beauty so dreamlike that it practically seemed to be an illusion, had created this situation. Because when the light finally returned to his eyes, the scene that had unraveled before him had definitely been deeply carved into his soul, something that would never fade away from his memory and soul for the rest of eternity. He was the dragon monarch, but in the end, he was still a mortal creature. Because of Shen Xi, he had never truly stained any other woman for more than 300,000 years, at the very least. It was said that he had only had the Dragon Queen for his entire life. To be devoted to a single person to such an extent, it was indeed something very rarely seen in this world. However, Shen Xi had never truly given any response or reply to the infatuation that the dragon monarch had harbored for her for more than 300,000 years. Even when he had become the ruler of the dragon race, even when he had become the supreme ruler and the #1 person in primal chaos, she still had not responded to those feelings. Her completely intact vital yin was the best proof of all this. Waves roared and crashed in Xianxia's heart, and he could not calm it down no matter what he tried. Shen Xi was the Dragon Queen of the famed Dragon Queen and Goddess, even though the Dragon Queen was merely a hollow title that granted her many years of peace and tranquility. The only one who should know about this was her and the Dragon Monarch. But in the eyes of the world, she was the queen of the dragon race. However, in a state of half-dazed stupor, he had actually had sex with this Dragon Queen. What kind of power and status did the Dragon Monarch have? Yet despite all of this, and the fact that he was crazily infatuated with Shen Xi, he had not even dared to expect or try to profane her in the slightest way for several 100,000 years. Perhaps in his eyes, Shen Xi was simply a perfect and flawless dream. But if he found out that this dream had actually been stained by a junior who was wholly insignificant and inadequate compared to him, his reaction would simply be unimaginable. At the same time, he was even less able to understand why Shen Xi, who was cool and indifferent to even someone like the Dragon Monarch, would behave in that way towards him. Those words that she had said, the gazes that she had shot him, those actions she had taken. In anyone else's eyes, it would be something completely unbelievable and inexplicable. Could it be that he had been dreaming ever since he had entered the forbidden realm of samsara, and that all of this was not real? Upon looking at Xianxi's ever-changing expression, Shen Xi made a smile that was not a smile while saying, "Are you afraid now, Xianxi? If you're afraid to face the Dragon Monarch, then." Shen Xi's eyes drifted away from Xianxi and coolly looked into the distance. "You can take it that yesterday's affairs did not ever happen. I can guarantee that I will definitely not let another person know about this after this. Furthermore, the words I said to you today will never be said to you ever again." Xianxi breathed in and out several times, and his chest gradually stopped heaving. "You are the Dragon Queen, but you are not the Dragon Queen that everyone else thinks you are. That is also to say that I have not done anything wrong to the Dragon Monarch," Shen Xi said in a soft voice. "I, Shen Xi, do not belong to anyone, I only belong to myself. What I have done to you and what you have done to me is only between the two of us, so it is only natural that you have not wronged him in any way." "Then why do I have to be afraid? Why wouldn't I dare?" Xianxi's tone grew slightly more firm, but one could not call it resolute or hard either. Shen Xi's gaze shifted back to him, and she gave a small nod of her head. "You did not disappoint me entirely after all. But you need to tell me one thing. What exactly is the reason for you to behave in such a way towards me?" Xianxi stared straight at her, and he did not know if it was because he could not avert his gaze, or if he was trying to find something in those beautiful starry eyes. Shen Xi shook her head. "I am unable to tell you that. I have my own selfish desires, but I want you to believe that I will never ever harm you." "Why are you unable to tell me?" Xianxi continued to ask. "Because the current you is far too small and insignificant," Shen Xi told him frankly. "The higher your level, the wider your vision. It is only as your power grows that you will have more options open to you. Given your current power and level, if I tell you everything, I can indeed solve your confusion. But at the same time, I will also be harming you." She avoided Xianxi's gaze, and her own eyes grew faintly misty. "I had originally thought that my future would be an empty void. During these years, the only thing I could do was to try and break the fetters that bound me to this place. After that, I would try to find a home that might never ever exist in this vast and starry universe. At least that was until you showed up." "Xianxi, me," He Ling. "Ah, if you are unable to put down the doubts and suspicions in your heart, then you only need remember this one thing," Shen Xi said softly. "Our destinies are intertwined." She had never previously thought that this man, whom Xia Qingyu had brought from the eastern divine region all the way to the western divine region, a man whom she had originally no desire to keep, but had only relented due to the tearful pleading of He Ling, was actually the person she thought that she would never be able to find for the rest of eternity. Furthermore, he had appeared before her even before she was able to escape from her fetters. Those soft and wispy words had undoubtedly deepened Xianxi's suspicions and doubts. He said in a completely dazed and confused voice, "Other than the identities of Shen Xi and the Dragon Queen, who else are you exactly?" He had only been here for 2 months, and if he had not been brought to her by Xia Qingyu because he had been afflicted with the Brahma soul death-wishing mark, he would not even be aware of the existence of Shen Xi. "Our destinies are intertwined." Those words were something that he could not understand in the slightest, no matter how hard he tried. "If there is a day that you can surpass the heights that the Dragon Monarch has scaled, then you will naturally know everything as well. What you can do and what you must do. It is only if you do this that you will never need to fear the covetous gazes of other people any longer. It is only then that you will also no longer need to be afraid of the slightest thing and truly face the Dragon Monarch with no fear or guilt. As someone who bears the power of a creation god," and the Shen Xi's voice suddenly came to a halt before she continued, "This is karma that you cannot escape from. An inescapable destiny. In fact, for the past few years, Xianxi himself had also been having this feeling, and it was a feeling that was growing clearer and clearer as time passed. He possessed the evil god's power and the sky-poisoned pearl. Both were singularly unique items in this universe. Even though possessing these things allowed him to live a completely different life, they had also come with an equivalent amount of risk and danger. The moment they were exposed, it would definitely draw an extremely large amount of covetous eyes towards him. So it was inevitable that he had to be careful and vigilant at all times. At present, his greatest secret had already been exposed to Xianxia side. Even if she did not tell anybody else, it still meant that he could forget about ever living a peaceful and carefree life unless he could rise above Xianxia and rise above everyone else in the world. Thus, Shen Xi's words were not wrong to Xianxi's understanding, even if the points they were referring to may have been different. "All of the things you said are things that I already understand," Xianxi said. "Fine, I won't try to force you to tell me the things you don't want to talk about again. Right now, I only want to think of the quickest way to get rid of this Brahma soul death-wishing mark. I'll think about the rest of it after this." "Senior Shen Xi, tell me this one thing first. Is there a way for me to get rid of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark quicker? And if there is, what is it?" Xianxi asked. With the Brahma soul death-wishing mark still in his body, what Xianxia or Dragon Monarch, he basically did not have any spare effort to waste thinking about them. Shen Xi replied in a cool voice, "Dual cultivate with me." Xianxi was immediately struck dumb. However, since you are able to create and manipulate light profound energy, that will also greatly shorten the amount of time it will take." Shen Xi turned around and walked towards the bamboo house that only one outsider, Xianxi, had ever stepped inside before. After that, she said, "Follow me." Xianxi paused for a moment before he followed behind Shen Xi and left Ling quietly standing in her original spot as she remained completely dumbfounded for a long time. The bamboo door closed behind them, and the world became incomparably quiet. It was just at the moment when Xianxi wanted to ask a question that Shen Xi extended a jade arm as she lightly traced something in the air, her white sleeve flapping in the wind. Immediately, a white light shone from an unknown location, illuminating the entire bamboo hut in a sea of lustrous white light. After that, one could no longer see a trace of emerald green. It was as if the entire space had been transformed. Even though the white light was dense, it was not glaring. Within this world that had turned pure white, characters started appearing in the air. These characters were also white, yet they were, strangely enough, exceptionally clear and easy to make out in this dense white light. These characters started to slowly dance in the air, eventually converging to form a gigantic, profound art. As the white light curled up around these characters, they released an incomparably profound and holy aura. Xianxi raised his head to stare at this strange, profound art that was being bathed in light. This is the light divine art that I am about to teach you," Shen Xi said in a gentle voice. "Light divine art?" Xianxi muttered in a soft voice, his eyes rigidly fixed on those characters. "Light profound energy is different from all the other profound energies you are familiar with. Its true essence absolutely does not lie in force or destruction. Rather, the true essence of light profound energy is cleansing and salvation. Your body is weighed down by a very heavy aura of malice and blood, so this is definitely not a power suited for you to wield. And perhaps you are also not too interested in this sort of power which provides nearly no combat ability. However, if you want to quickly get rid of your Brahma soul death-wishing mark, then this light divine art is the best choice you have at present." As Shen Xi said these things, Xianxi had been silently staring at the light divine art that was floating in the air. He was very convinced that this was the first time he had ever come in contact with this profound art, yet he suddenly had this notion that he might have seen this somewhere before. This was an extremely strange and indescribable feeling. "Senior Shen Xi, are you letting me cultivate this light divine art so that I can purge myself of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark?" he asked. Shen Xi gave a light nod of her head. "The reason why I was able to purge your Brahma soul death-wishing mark in the first place was by the power of this light divine art. So even though your strength is extremely far from mine, the power of other people and the power that originates from your own body can't be put in the same sentence at the end of the day. You can handle light profound energy, so you just barely have the qualifications to cultivate this light divine art. If you are able to master the contents of this divine art, you will not only be able to cleanse yourself of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark, your lifespan will also far exceed that of the human race. Other than that, this divine art isn't just a simple light profound art, it also contains unique laws of creation, and an extremely high-level medical knowledge. If you can comprehend everything within it, you can not only save yourself, but others as well. All those years ago, she had used light divine power to save the dragon monarch who was on the brink of death. Not only had she completely restored his profound veins and meridians, she had even been able to completely restore his eyes and tongue, which had been destroyed. In the god realm, it was said that this power that transcended all normal understanding was something that only Shen Xi possessed. This was also why Xia Qingyu, in her despair, had not hesitated to bring Xianxia to the distant dragon god realm. Xianxia finally managed to move his gaze away from the floating characters before he asked, "If I am able to cultivate it, how long will it take me to get rid of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark?" Within 10 years, the number Shen Xi had just uttered was 5 times less than what it initially had been. Xianxia's expression changed slightly. Even though it was still far too long compared to being trapped in this place for 50 years, it was a far better option. But you shouldn't become happy too soon. The level of this light divine art is extremely high, and if you desire to comprehend its contents, being able to control light profound energy is only one of the most basic conditions. You also need an extremely high comprehension ability and the right opportunities. Besides that, Shen Xi's words came to a small stop before a look of regret and pity appeared on her celestial mien. "This is only half of the divine art." "Half?" Xianxia was mildly stunned by those words. "Then where is the other half?" Shen Xi shook her head. "This light divine art came from an incomparably distant era in the past, and it should also be the only remaining copy of the light divine art in the current universe. To be able to obtain even half of it is already being blessed by the heavens, and the other half will probably never ever be found. This is a divine art from the primordial era of gods." "It's not merely that." Shen Xi's eyes glowed with a strange light. "It came from the primogenitor of light profound energy herself, one of the 4 great creation gods of the primordial god realm, the creation goddess of life, Li Xiu." Xianxia. "In other words, this is a creation god art." Xianxia's expression froze on his face, and it remained like that for a long time. After Xianxia's evil god powers, yet another creation god's powers had appeared in this world. No, it had appeared at a far earlier time than Xianxia's own evil god powers. It was just that the entire god realm knew that Dragon Queen Shen Xi was the most unique existence under heaven, an existence that could turn death to life, could turn a rotten piece of wood into a forest. Yet they had not known that this unique power, a power that only she possessed in this universe, was actually the power of a creation god. The creation goddess of life, Li Xiu's creation god powers. Xianxia remained dumbstruck for a long period of time. Shen Xi had originally thought that he had been astounded by the name creation god art. Yet at this moment, Xianxia said something that actually stunned her instead. "This light divine art is its name, the divine miracle of life." Shen Xi's crescent brows twitched slightly as her beautiful eyes swiveled towards him. "You actually know of this name?" Xianxia raised his head again and once more looked towards the white-colored profound art that was floating in midair. "This is the first half of the divine art, and what is missing is the next half correct." As she looked at Xianxia's clearly strange behavior and appearance, Shen Xi began to feel a faint suspicion. "Why do you know of this?" "Because," Xianxia said as his hand grabbed his jaw, "I just happen to have the other half of the divine miracle of life." Shen Xi's celestial eyes and body whirled towards Xianxia at the same time, as shock and astonishment appeared on that face of absolute beauty for the first time. Xianxia focused his will and closed his eyes, and the characters that he had carved into his heart during his life in the azure cloud continent started floating into his mind. After that, it formed a profound shadow, and following a wave of his hand, it slowly spread open in front of him. The Heavenly Medicine Manual. In the illusory demon realm's Golden Crow Lightning Flame Valley, the Golden Crow spirit had clearly told him that the Heavenly Medicine Manual that both him and Yungu had cultivated was absolutely not the medicine manual they thought it was. It was actually the creation god art of the creation goddess of life, Li Xiu, the divine miracle of life. As it involved a creation god art on the same level as the evil god's powers, this was a conversation that Xianxia definitely was not able to forget. He had previously tried to comprehend it before, but he had met with no success. Even though he had carved the entire Heavenly Medicine Manual into his heart, his understanding of it had basically all come from Yungu. Furthermore, it was entirely composed of medical knowledge and had not involved the profound way or any principles of the universe. However, He had once again heard the 4 words, divine miracle of life, from Shen Xi's mouth. So at that moment he instantly understood why this light divine art in front of him seemed so strangely familiar. It was the slightly wondrous feeling of compatibility that came from the same divine art. The Heavenly Medicine Manual, also otherwise known as the latter half of the divine miracle of life, had also unfurled itself in this white-colored world. It was clearly only characters that had been conjured up by Xianxi's using profound light. But the moment it opened up and spread out, it was suddenly covered with a layer of dense white light that had definitely not come from Xianxi. Following this, an incomparably strange and fantastic scene unfurled before their eyes. The 2 parts of the divine art that had come from Shen Xi and Xianxi, respectively, had actually started to dance together. After that, they drew near to each other at a very swift speed, until they perfectly merged together. Following that, the light and aura radiating from these characters flowed and blended together before spreading out to reveal a complete light divine art. And at the same time, it also opened up a whole new world. Shen Xi raised her head as she dazedly stared at the air above her. "The complete, divine miracle of life," she said in an absent-minded voice. Bright ripples spread within her beautiful eyes, and they did not fade away for a very long time. Xianxi was also looking at this scene dumbly. He had clearly only used profound light to make those pale white characters appear, yet they had merged together with the other characters as if they had their own senses and their own life. This was a creation god art. Its profound mystery was not something that could be measured by the logic of the mortal plane. "It actually, Shen Xi muttered to herself as her beautiful eyes had unconsciously grown hazy. This was the divine miracle of life that had come from the creation goddess of life, Li Xiu, and at this moment it had actually appeared in front of her. So how was this not a true divine miracle? A divine miracle that she had long ago stopped hoping would appear. She closed her eyes for a long time before slowly opening them again. After that, she turned towards Xianxi and said, "This latter half of the divine miracle of life, where did you obtain it from?" Xianxi answered honestly, "I was not the one who found it, it was my master." "Your master? Master isn't proficient at the profound way, so he is my master in the art of medicine. This half of a divine art was something he unwittingly found." Master was convinced that this was a very special medical manual that stored an extremely deep and high level of medical knowledge. So he called it the Heavenly Medicine Manual, as a way of saying that this was a medical manual that the heavens themselves had bestowed on him. "Shen Xi, it was also this Heavenly Medicine Manual that allowed my master to become a divine doctor and indirectly also change my life," Xianxi said as heart was stirred up by those memories. Xianxi's words caused Shen Xi's crescent brows to furrow slightly. "So you're saying that your master was actually able to fully grasp this half of the divine miracle of life?" "No," Xianxi shook his head before answering in a frustrated voice. "Master is someone who has a pure and sacred heart. He has only sought to help people and increase his medical prowess his entire life, and he is even somewhat repulsed by the profound way. From the beginning to the end, he had thought this was a medical manual, and he was completely unable to comprehend 99% of the knowledge contained within it. The remaining tiny 1% was medical knowledge he comprehended through sheer devotion to his craft and his own intuition as a physician. Just what kind of existence was the divine miracle of life? That even though Yun Gu had only comprehended one tiny part of it, 1% of it to be exact, it was enough to make him the #1 divine doctor in the Azure Cloud continent. And today, he was also the #1 divine doctor in the illusory demon realm. The divine miracle of life does indeed contain medical knowledge, but the level of those medical principles are extremely high. For your master in medicine to be able to comprehend just the slightest bit of it with his mortal heart and perception is already enough to call him a person of extraordinary talent. Xianxi nodded his head with no hesitation whatsoever at Shen Xi's words. When he had followed Yun Gu all those years ago, he had grown accustomed to it. But after Yun Gu had passed away, he began to gradually realize that Yun Gu was a genuine saint by any and all measures. A person like that was someone he might not find again in his life, and even in the entire mortal world. Even though he did not possess light profound energy and was not proficient in the profound way, he was able to use his pure doctor's heart to comprehend a part of the medical principles contained within the divine miracle of life. Perhaps this was also something a second person would not be able to replicate. Xianxi's comprehension ability was extremely high, yet he had never been able to grasp the heavenly medicine manual. But now that he possessed light profound energy, when his divine senses swept across this light divine art, he could immediately sense an extremely enormous change. The moment his eyes came into contact with these originally arcane and difficult to understand characters, a strange resonance actually suddenly rang out in his soul. As he focused his mind a little more, all the profound energy in his body started to move by itself, releasing a layer of pure and flawless white light. A vast and boundless world of pure white started to gradually unfold and spread before his eyes. Sacredness, light, life, forgiveness, love, kind-heartedness, salvation, cleansing, healing, creation, warmth, peace. Within this pure white world, all of the beautiful and good things one could imagine had started to appear. As he was immersed in this kind of world, Xianxi's heart and soul had become peaceful and empty. All of his frustrations, resentments, maliciousness, apprehension, and hesitation, all of it had been blown away by that warm white light, and he could no longer feel any negative emotions. Xianxi withdrew his will, and the pure white world in front of him vanished. Yet that flawless peace and tranquility still remained in his heart, and all of this had occurred due to his comprehension of the very first verse of the divine art. Even though it was just a verse, he could clearly see another world, a brand new world that had never appeared before within his knowledge or experience. Light, profound energy? Xianxi involuntarily breathed out those words. When he had discovered that he had suddenly gained light, profound energy due to Shen Xi, he had not been too excited about it. Instead, he had only felt curious and amazed. But right now, having used light, profound energy to once again face the divine miracle of life, he now truly understood that he had opened a giant door to another world, a world of light that no one in this universe had stepped into aside from Shen Xi. The sudden enlightenment that had happened recently had lingered in his consciousness for only a few short breaths, but he understood that a lot of time may actually have already passed by. During this entire period, Shen Xi had not said a single word, and she had not given him any attention at all. She was also quietly looking at the reunited and complete divine miracle of life. Compared to Xianxi stepping into a whole new domain, the throbbing in her heart was several times stronger than his, because she was far more clear on what exactly the complete resurrection of the divine miracle of life meant. He appeared, and he even brought the completion of miracle of life with him. The words that were said from the bottom of her heart had actually absent-mindedly spilled from her lips. It looks like this is truly the will of heaven. Royal Father, Lord Li Xiu, Zier has finally. Xianxi glanced to the side as he gave the clearly out-of-sorts and absent-minded Shen Xi a strange look. He had once again heard her utter the words Lord Li Xiu, and he had also clearly heard her say Royal Father. Father was a king? The king of what race? Shen Xi had finally noticed his eyes which were staring directly at her. She regained her senses, and her beautiful eyes, which had also turned peaceful and calm again, turned towards him. Xianxi, I said before that if you are able to cultivate the incomplete, divine miracle of life, it would take you 10 years to completely cleanse yourself of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark. But having the complete divine miracle of life is obviously a completely different notion from having the incomplete version. If you are able to fully grasp and comprehend the entire divine miracle of life, then the amount of time you will need to cleanse yourself of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark will be greatly reduced. It is very possible that you will be able to purge the Brahma soul death-wishing mark within a year. Within a year? Those 3 words shook Xianxi greatly. He had already personally experienced the dreadfulness of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark. Furthermore, this Brahma soul death-wishing mark was personally inflicted on him by Kaina Yinger, and no one could get rid of it other than Shen Xi. But right now, Shen Xi had personally told him that if he was able to cultivate the divine miracle of life, even someone who was only at the divine spirit realm like him would only need a year to get rid of it. Was the divine miracle of life truly that strong? This will also depend on your own comprehension ability and your compatibility with the divine miracle of life. If you find yourself unable to cultivate the divine miracle of life, then the only option you will be left with is to rely on my power to help you get rid of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark, Shen Xi said. I understand. Xianxi nodded his head before sucking in a small breath. What had originally been 50 years had now been reduced to 1 year. Those 2 words were so beautiful and perfect that he found himself nearly unable to believe them. But the precondition was that he had to completely comprehend the divine miracle of life. The level of the divine miracle of life was undoubtedly extremely high. It existed at level of creation itself, the same plane as his evil god arts. But the short period of sudden revelation just now caused him to feel no apprehension in his heart. In the next year, I don't expect you to cultivate the divine miracle of life. Even comprehending a bit of it is fine. But there is one goal that you definitely need to accomplish. Shen Xi's gaze gradually grew focused and solid. Following the reappearance of the complete divine miracle of life, the look which she gave Xianxia was subtly different from before. The divine king realm? Those four words, which had been uttered in a soft and gentle voice, caused Xianxia's eyes to go completely wide instead. Become a divine king within a year. How is that even possible? His current profound strength was at the 5th level of the divine spirit realm. To cultivate from the 5th level of the divine spirit realm to the divine king realm, even at the level of the king realms themselves, was purely a nonsensical fairy tale. It was definitely not something anybody would believe. Just based on your own strength, it is indeed impossible, Shen Xi said gracefully. But I will help you and Linger, and this forbidden land of samsara will also help you. Xianxia still did not understand. The aura within the forbidden land of samsara is not stained by any impurities, and the majority of the spirit flowers and mysterious plants found in this place can only be found here. Previously, you did not even know of the name, Shen Xi, so you also should not know where the very best spirit medicines in the god realm are produced. This was something that Xianxia indeed did not know. He had always been in the snow song realm previously, so he had naturally not come into contact with anything at this level. Upon hearing Shen Xi's words, his eyebrows twitched and he said, "Could it be this place?" To the rest of the god realm, the forbidden land of samsara was not only a forbidden ground, it was also a sacred ground. As the one and only true pure land within the god realm, all the pellets and medicines that came from the forbidden land of samsara were sacred items to the rest of the world. At certain intervals of time, Shen Xi would gift the dragon monarch with spirit pellets she had refined personally. This was not to thank the dragon monarch himself, but it was a present to the dragon god race. After all, she was also from the dragon god race. The stronger the medicinal strength of a profound way medicine was, the greater the risk. If one foolishly overestimated oneself and ate one, it was the same as digging your own grave. This was one of the most basic principles of the profound way. Even if one was as strong as Xianxia, when he had forced down the universe pentajade pellet during the conferred god battle. If Mu Xunian had not been by his side, his body would have long ago been crippled, and he would have died. However, the medicines that came from the forbidden land of samsara were all extremely pure. It was also because of this that no matter how high level or strong the medicinal strength of the medicines were, they did not carry any risk whatsoever. Even an entirely mortal person could directly swallow them, and that person's entire body would be completely transformed within a night, giving the person a new lease on life. So these spiritual medicines, which defied common sense, were existences that were on the level of the most valuable treasures, even to the dragon god race who reigned supreme under heaven. Over the last several 100,000 years, they had only ever gifted 7 of these pellets, and every single pellet was a gift to the other king realms. Shen Xi did not reply. Instead, she said in a warm and gentle voice, "As a member of the Wood Spirit royal family, Linger possesses many abilities unique to her alone. She can speed up the growth of all of the divine trees and spirit flowers in this place, and she can also perfectly capture their spirit energy when she harvests them. From tomorrow onwards, I will get her to refine spirit pellets and spirit liquids for you to increase your vitality and profound energy. Furthermore, your time will be divided like this. 30% will go to comprehending the divine miracle of life, 30% will be to cultivate and stabilize your profound strength, and the remaining time, I will need you to dual cultivate with me for at least 6 hours every day." Xianxia, the 2 words, dual cultivate, had been uttered by Shen Xi with incomparable coolness and indifference. It had not been stained by any emotion or desire. But once Xianxia heard that, he was basically unable to keep his cool. "I will help you refine my vital yin and cultivate the divine miracle of life together with you. This is the quickest way to allow you to comprehend the divine miracle of life and increase your profound strength." She gave Xianxia a deep look before speaking softly. "Do not forget the situation you found yourself in today. It is not my expectation or hope for you to become a divine king within a year. It is simply a goal you definitely need to accomplish. If you ever want to escape the grasp of Kyanai and become able to face the dragon monarch head-on, that is." outside the God realm, in a corner of the primal chaos, on a planet called the Blue Pole Star, profound sky continent, Blue Wind Imperial City. As time flowed by, it had somehow already been 4 years since Xianxia had left the profound sky continent to head to the God realm. During these 4 years, the legend of Xianxia had not faded one bit in the profound sky continent, but no one had seen him either. Furthermore, there had been many guesses as to where he had gone, and the more they spread, the fiercer they got. However, in Blue Wind Nation, Xianxia was undoubtedly a character that had become legend. He had saved Blue Wind Nation, saved the profound sky continent, and had also greatly changed the status of Blue Wind Nation within the profound sky continent. He was the greatest pride in all Blue Wind history. Because of the existence of one person, Xianxia, Blue Wind Nation, had become the country one could least afford to offend in the profound sky continent. Even the 4 sacred grounds who represented and symbolized the profound way in the profound sky continent. Absolute Monarch Sanctuary's current Saint Emperor Xia Yuanba was also someone from the Blue Wind Nation, and the Supreme Ocean Palace that had been pardoned by Xianxia also had to pay tribute to the Blue Wind Imperial family every year. As for the other 2 sacred grounds, the Divine Phoenix sect had bent their heads to the Blue Wind Imperial family for the past few years and up to this day. They were still paying reparations to the Blue Wind Nation for the sins they committed in those years. Even less needed to be said about Frozen Cloud Asgard. 3 years before this, it had already become the Blue Wind Nation's guardian sect. Furthermore, the previous Asgard master had been Xianxia as well, so even though Frozen Cloud Asgard had the weakest total strength of the 4 sacred grounds, it was actually at the head of them. Because of all of these reasons, the Blue Wind Nation was undoubtedly the place that you definitely could not afford to shake in the entire continent. But in the past half a year, the Blue Wind Nation had not been peaceful. The Blue Wind Palace chief Dongfang Xiu landed in a restricted area within the Imperial Palace. With hurried feet, he rushed into the Imperial Hall. This old servant Dongfang Xiu greets Her Majesty the Empress. Kang Yue's pair of phoenix eyes were gentle, but there was steel in them. As she looked at the Dongfang Xiu who was kneeling before her, her eyebrows furrowed and she said, "Palace Chief Dongfang, your expression is so hurried and anxious. Could it be that the profound beasts have started rampaging again?" "Replying, Your Majesty, it is exactly that," Dongfang Xiu proclaimed solemnly with a bent head. "The area which has been affected by this disturbance is the wasteland of death. Those profound beasts that normally never leave that domain have all crawled out of their nests. Even the herbivorous profound beasts, which have never harmed anyone before, have also become exceptionally violent and irascible. The wasteland of death is where most profound beasts reside in our Blue Wind, so the profound beast rampage this time around is far bigger than the previous ones in scale." Kang Yue's crescent brows faintly knitted together before she said, "The area of unrest is in the eastern region of the wasteland of death." Dongfang Xiu immediately replied, "It is. Currently, the 50-kilometer area which comprises the eastern part of the wasteland of death has been affected. If we do not put a stop to it soon, it will definitely bring about a great disaster. I request Your Majesty to quickly to give us a command and to also request help from the Divine Phoenix sect." Kang Yue stood up. She continued thinking for a while more before she muttered to herself, "This is already the 6th time." "Palace Chief Dongfang," Kang Yue said with furrowed brows, "immediately return to the Blue Wind Profound Palace. Marshal all the elite profound practitioners within the inner palace and immediately rush towards the eastern part of the wasteland of death afterwards." Dongfang Xiu was shocked by that command. "Your Majesty, this is—" Kang Yue's face was solemn, and an authoritative might coolly radiated from her. "During the past few years, blue winds might have spread the all corners of the realm due to my husband's name and reputation. Countless profound practitioners have started to become arrogant, and they no longer have any sense of danger. They have even forgotten that our nation was on the brink of destruction just a few years ago. This profound beast rampage will be dealt with by the profound practitioners of the Blue Wind Profound Palace. Tell them that this is Blue Wind Nation. We cannot forever rely on the Divine Phoenix sect. But the profound beasts that come from the wasteland of death are no laughing matter. Furthermore, there are an extremely large amount of them gathered there right now. Even if the entire inner palace were to head out, it would still be very difficult to deal with. Moreover, even if we are able to suppress it in the end, it will also definitely result in a lot of injuries and deaths," Dongfang Xiu said in a worried voice. The royal family will naturally compensate for any and all casualties. Dongfang Xiu's words had not moved Kang Yue in the slightest. It is time for them to wake up and smell the roses. If there are cowards or unwilling participants, there is no need to force them. But you must immediately expel them from the Blue Wind profound palaces and forbid them from ever returning. The Blue Wind Empress orders had been set, and Dongfang Xiu naturally was unable to say anything else. As he thought of the atmosphere in these Blue Wind profound palaces that had gradually been changing due to the might of their country, he also gave a silent sigh in his heart. After that, he kowtowed deeply before swiftly departing. Just as Dongfang Xiu had left, the authoritative might on Kang Yue's face immediately disappeared, and it was swiftly replaced by an expression of deep worry. She picked up a sound transmission jade and whispered into it, "Zuer, there is something I need to bother you with." After Kang Yue had finished that sound transmission, the worry on her face deepened even further. She looked outside of the palace and muttered to herself. In just a short half a year, 6 consecutive strange occurrences had happened with the profound beasts, and the interval between each incident grows ever shorter. Just what exactly is happening here? A red figure flashed into existence in the skies above Blue Wind Imperial City. Feng Zuer was clad in big, poofy crimson robes that whirled around her like a blaze of fire. She floated down from the air and moved forward on nimble feet once she had landed. In a flash, she had passed through most of the Imperial City. Upon entering the Imperial Palace, Feng Zuer arrived in front of Kang Yue, who had been waiting for her. Kang Yue raised her head and gave a faint smile. "Zuer, you've come." Feng Zuer sensed the worry hidden in the depths of Kang Yue's eyes, and she had already guessed the cause. "Big sister Kang Yue, has another profound beast rampage happened?" Kang Yue bent her head. "This rampage is happening in the eastern part of the wasteland of death, and it's a rather large one this time. I have already sent the Blue Wind profound palaces to deal with it, but I'm afraid that their strength is not enough." "I understand." Feng Zuer immediately understood Kang Yue's intentions, including why she had activated the profound practitioners of the Blue Wind profound palaces as well. "I will dispatch people to look after them from the shadows. If the Blue Wind profound palaces can successfully suppress this rampage by themselves, it would be for the best. If they cannot, my people will take action, so big sister Kang Yue doesn't need to worry." "What I'm truly worried about isn't this," Kang Yue said with a soft sigh. "This has already been the 6th time in the span of 6 months, and the last time this happened was a short half-month ago. These profound beasts are not only leaving their domains, but their temperaments have also become exceptionally violent and irascible. I am worried that this is some sort of evil omen." "I think so as well," Feng Zuer replied. "Furthermore, there is something that I was about to tell Big Sister as well. Just 6 hours ago, a similar profound beast rampage also occurred in the illusory demon realm." "What?" Kang Yue was rather shocked by the news. The place where it happened was to the east of Flower Mist Domain, and it also happens to be the easternmost part of the illusory demon realm. Kang Yue's delicate brow fiercely knitted in concern before she softly spoke. "It looks like this definitely isn't a mere coincidence." Blue Wind Nation was located in the eastern part of the profound sky continent. Furthermore, the place where the profound beast rampages had started was also the easternmost part of Floating Cloud City. It was only after the first time that the rampages started spreading westwards. Similar profound beast rampages had also occurred in the illusory demon realm, and the place where it had occurred was also located in its easternmost part. If this strange situation had only occurred in the eastern part of Blue Wind Nation, it would be fine. But now it had also occurred in the eastern part of the illusory demon realm, which was extremely far away from the profound sky continent. If it was for the same reason, then this disaster's area of influence was simply far too terrifying. The two people cast their gazes towards the east at the same time, and even though the present Feng Zuer had already stepped into the realm of the divine way, she still felt a sense of unease. "Tomorrow, I will personally descend into the eastern sea region and inspect an area 50,000 kilometers wide. Big sister Kei and her people are also taking this matter very seriously, so I believe that the truth will be out before too long. Big sister Kang Yue, you don't need to be so worried," Feng Zuer said in a bid to console her. "Amen, then I'll leave it to Zuer and Kei then." Upon leaving Blue Wind Imperial City, Feng Zuer's beautiful eyes grew several degrees more focused and serious. The most likely reason for an entire region's worth of profound beasts to suddenly change their temperament and go rabid and violent was that they had felt something that caused them to become extremely afraid. But Feng Zhuer was the first person to have truly stepped into the divine way in the history of the profound sky continent. Given her current level, no one in the entire profound sky continent could equal her, so there was no reason for her to not be able to detect any aura or energy that was able to affect these weak profound beasts. But she had personally gone to every area where a profound beast rampage had occurred, yet she had not discovered anything, nor had she sensed any abnormal auras or energy. This sort of strange, unknown quantity was undoubtedly the most dreadful kind, and it had actually caused her to feel a far deeper unease than Kang Yue or anyone else. "I'll need to carefully check all of it," Feng Zhuer muttered to herself. At this time, she suddenly seemed to recall something, her gaze darting towards the distant east. Big Brother Yun said that to the east of the profound sky continent, more than 500,000 kilometers away, lies a place called the Azure Cloud Continent. Could it be something to do with that place? After she had finished her mumbled soliloquy, she was about to turn her eyes elsewhere before a crimson star twinkled in her eyes from the incomparably distant heavens above. It was just a momentary flash, but it had stabbed fiercely into the depths of her eyes like an iron needle, causing her to involuntarily turn her phoenix eyes away at the same time. She clearly felt as if a part of her soul had been pierced through as an iciness that was hard to describe spread through her entire body. She immediately turned her gaze towards the east yet again, but even though she stared straight at the sky and searched it for a very long time with her eyes, she was unable to see that star, which glimmered with crimson light again. Had she been mistaken? Feng Zhuer closed her eyes, and the iciness that had spread through her heart and soul took a good long while to fade away completely. Following that, the figure that she yearned for day and night involuntarily appeared in her mind's eye, causing her heart to grow exceptionally warm. It had been 4 years already. When she had stayed in the Phoenix Perching Valley by herself in the past, she had not felt lonely no matter how much time had passed. But these 4 years seemed interminably long for her. "Big Brother Yun, 1 more year and you'll be back. I pray that you'll definitely return home safely." Western Divine Region, Dragon God Realm, Forbidden Land of Samsara. The pure land of Samsara, which had been tranquil and quiet since ancient times, was now being rocked by the rumbling explosions caused by thunder. Yun Qi's body floated in midair as it was entirely immersed in a purple-colored sea of violently raging lightning. Following a wave of his hand, the millions of purple lights whinnied and snarled, and every single one of those purple lights not only seemed sinister and glaring, but they also clearly contained a startling heavenly might. A huge white barrier had completely encased the space around Yun Qi, and no matter how much that lightning surged and tore at it, it was not able to open even a crack, much less harm a single bit of the forbidden land of Samsara. Shen Xi wore a long, plain white robe as she stood in front of the barrier, the light wind occasionally exposing the endlessly bewitching contours of her body as it pushed the cloth against her flesh. Her silky bosom towered in the air, her skin was as white and lustrous as ice and snow, and her face was as fantastically beautiful as a celestial's. She quietly stood there observing the Yun Qi inside the barrier, and it was as if her entire figure was bathed in sacred light, radiating a noble holiness and purity that was hard to put into words. He Ling approached on soundless feet, a cluster of white light held up in her hand. Within that white light was a drop of spirit liquid. Even though it was only a drop, it contained the concentrated effort of 1 day and 1 night of He Ling's labor. She looked at Yun Qi, a strange light rippling in her eyes as she could not help but saying, "Master, he is really awesome." Shen Xi's gaze did not move away from Yun Qi's figure. She merely gave a light nod of assent as she said, "He is indeed an absolute monster in every respect." "Master has been praising him very often recently," He Ling said with a faint smile. Every time she had heard Shen Xi praise Yun Qi recently, she would strangely feel a kind of happiness bubble up in her heart. She did not know whether it was because his body contained all the hopes of He Lin, or whether she had long ago already decided to link her destiny with his. On one side is the heavenly law tribulation lightning, which no one has ever been able to control. On the other is a common and ordinary purple cloud art. Yet he was able to flawlessly and perfectly merge the two, and he was even able to produce such a startling heavenly might at that. Given Shen Xi's temperament and level, Yun Qi was definitely the first person in history to have received such high praise from her. The birth and creation of a profound art is an exceedingly difficult thing to do. It will normally take tens of generations worth of effort before it can be considered perfect. Even though Yun Qi did not create this art himself, given the extreme complexity of mixing and changing everything, this was no different from creating it by himself. Furthermore, he has only used such a short span of time, not even a year, to complete it to such a degree. An existence like him is probably unique in this universe. One would probably not be able to find a second person like him. Shen Xi's word caused the strange light in the wood spirit girl's eyes to grow even more brilliant. No wonder the sky poison pearl recognized him as its owner. Shen Xi glanced to the side and looked at the wood spirit girl's profile. Linger, in 3 more days. The Brahma soul death-wishing mark on his body will completely fade away. Ha! He Ling was stunned by those words. Following that startled cry, the hand which held the spirit liquid involuntarily withdrew a little as she unconsciously asked, So fast? I also did not think that it would be this fast. Shen Xi spoke in a soft voice as if she was muttering to herself, as the complexity in her beautiful eyes grew by several degrees. The divine miracle of life was a creation god art of the highest level in the current universe. Without the light origin power of the creation goddess Li Xiu, and without any light sacred veins, if a mortal human wanted to rely on their own strength to cultivate it, it would be as hard as reaching the heavens. Yun Qi possessed the evil god's profound veins, so there was no barrier in level when it came to cultivating the divine miracle of life. And in Shen Xi's eyes, he would have the easiest time cultivating it in the entire universe. He was also perhaps the only person who could actually cultivate the divine miracle of life. So she held very high hopes and expectations for him. Yet these very high hopes and expectations were only to the extent that she hoped that he was able to start unraveling the mysteries within a year's time. But the dreadfulness of Yun Qi's comprehension ability had completely capsized all of the knowledge and experience she had accumulated in her life. She had used several thousand years just to cultivate half of the divine miracle of life, but Yun Qi had used only 6 months. Furthermore, with the first half as a foundation, he had completely comprehended the latter half within the span of 3 short months. When they dual cultivated, she was the one who guided Yun Qi's light, profound energy at first. But later on, it was Yun Qi who was guiding her instead, as he helped her understand the latter half of the divine miracle of life at an even quicker pace. The divine miracle of life could save every living creature, cleanse every living thing, and it would also gradually give a person a sacred body that could not be invaded by any evil. After possessing light profound energy, Yun Qi had been able to sense the traces that Brahma's soul death-wishing mark had left inside his body. But after that sudden revelation from the divine miracle of life, he had begun to cleanse himself of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark every day. And following his complete comprehension of the divine miracle of light, the pace at which he cleansed his body of it had grown faster and faster. At present, given his current light profound energy, even if he did not do anything, the Brahma soul death-wishing mark would still gradually be removed. From now on, he would also never need to be afraid of the curse power coming from the Brahma soul death-wishing mark or any other curses, even if it was a powerhouse that was on the level of Kyanai who attempted to inflict him with it. 10 months ago, he told you that the day he finished purging the Brahma soul death-wishing mark would be the day you became the sky poison spirit. Shen Xi said as she looked at He Ling, Linger, have you changed your mind? After the initial shock and slight uncertainty had faded away, the wood spirit girl's eyes shone with a firm and persistent light. Linger definitely won't regret. Shen Xi was not the least bit surprised at He Ling's words. She said in a soft and gentle voice, the sky poison pearl did not recognize him as its master. It merged together with him while it was in a state with no spirit. In other words, the current sky poison pearl is a part of his body, so when you become the sky poison spirit, you will also become his poison spirit. After this, you will accompany him forever, rely on him, and whatever destiny and life you have after this will be decided by him. Linger understands. He Ling's eyes still remained as resolute as they had in the beginning. Shen Xi gave a light nod of her head before she spoke in a very soft voice. Linger, I believe he will help you take revenge, and he will also treat you well. His appearance in your life is not only a form of salvation for you, it is also a form of compensation given to you by the heavens. Boom. A huge explosion that even the barrier was unable to contain rang out in the air. Thousands of lightning bolts exploded within the barrier as the heavenly might surged. Yun Qi's sleeves and long hair fluttered wildly in the wind, and an imposing aura radiated from him. as if he was a thunder god descending to the earth. Furthermore, once he put both his arms together, the frantically surging tribulation lightning quickly receded, and within the short span of 2 breaths, it had disappeared completely without the smallest trace of lightning remaining. Even if it was the heavenly law tribulation lightning, he could still manipulate and control it in an incomparably natural fashion. Xianxi's long hair fell around his shoulders. He extended a hand and looked at his own palm, a small and satisfied smile appearing on his face. Finally, Jasmine, if you could see this, you'd definitely be very happy. When he was in the star god realm, Jasmine had advised Xianxi to combine the heavenly law tribulation lightning together with the Yun family's purple cloud art. Because even though the purple cloud art was only a common profound art from the lower realm, it had evolved throughout the 10,000-year history of the Yun family. So it was undoubtedly the lightning profound art that was most suited to the Yun family profound veins. She had even given it the name Heavenly Law Tribulation Lightning Art. Jasmine's words had been fixed in Xianxi's heart. During this period of time, he had dual cultivated and comprehended the divine miracle of life together with Shen Xi every day. Following the study of the divine miracle of life, the light profound energy that he could produce had kept changing as well, and even his heart and soul were affected as they grew calmer and more tranquil. Under these sorts of conditions, he finally started to combine the heavenly law tribulation lightning art, as described by Jasmine. And now nearly 10 months had gone by, following the successful transformation of the Nether Prison Lightning Emperor formation, the strongest forbidden technique in the purple cloud art. Using the heavenly law tribulation lightning, his heavenly law tribulation lightning art had finally taken shape. Even though it was far from complete, in the eyes of the world, being able to do this much within the short span of 10 months was already a miraculous feat. Even the one who understood Xianxi the most, Jasmine, would also not have thought that he could have reached this level of completion within such a short period of time. After all, this was one of the goals she had given Xianxi, bearing the 3,000 years in the eternal heaven pearl in mind. The barrier that was created by Shen Xi disappeared. After that, Xianxi descended from the sky, and in his excitement, he accidentally trampled on a patch of spirit flowers below him. He immediately crouched down, light profound energy circulating in his hand. Following that, a cluster of white light engulfed the patch of flowers below him, and those trampled spirit flowers quickly straightened up like living creatures which had been roused from their sleep. Furthermore, they shone with a vitality and vigor that was even more vibrant than before. Even the originally half-closed flower buds started to slowly bloom open. The surrounding flowers and plants had also started to sway in a light and graceful manner as they sought to gather around Xianxi. The white light in his hand vanished, and when he thought about his entirely involuntary action, he silently pressed a finger against the tip of his nose. When did I become so kind and compassionate? To think that I would actually immediately act to save even flowers and plants. He had long been aware that darkness profound energy would affect one's personality and temperament. It was also very clear that light profound energy, an existence that was not only as unique as darkness profound energy, but also completely antithetical to it, would also imperceptibly begin to influence the personality and temperament of a person. Furthermore, the result of this influence was the complete opposite of darkness profound energy. Xianxi also naturally did not dare to let Shen Xi know about the fact that his body contained darkness profound energy. All of the living creatures in the eastern, western, and southern divine region hated darkness profound energy with a passion, let alone Shen Xi, who possessed light profound energy. Xianxi was very convinced that if Shen Xi had known about the darkness profound energy in his body, she not only would not have treated him so well, she might even have killed him with a single slap. As he suppressed the excitement and emotion in his heart, Xianxi arrived in front of Shen Xi and he ling as he said in a respectful manner, "Senior Shen Xi." For the last 10 months, he had practiced dual cultivation with Senior Shen Xi for 6 hours every day, and this schedule had never been interrupted. The celestial flesh and jade body that no one had ever even dared to hope of touching was free for him to enjoy and profane for a long period of time every single day. As time went by, it could be said that Xianxi was far more familiar with Shen Xi's jade body than he was with any other woman. But the moment he stepped out of that bamboo hut, he would be respectful and deferential at all times when he faced Shen Xi. He did not dare to offend her in even the slightest manner. Xianxia had always been a reckless and daring person in front of women. Even when he had been in the illusory demon realm, he had dared to provoke and tease the little demon empress who had just finished slaughtering an entire clan. And he had also dared to place his devilish hands on Xia Qingyu right after they had just reunited. But given Shen Xi's otherworldly celestial appearance and her sacred and majestic presence, besides the time when she was dual cultivating with Xianxia, he did not dare to blaspheme or profane her in any way. Not only was he honest and well-behaved in front of her, he did not even dare look her directly in the eyes. Shen Xi extended a snowy hand and retrieved the spirit liquid He Ling had been holding. Xianxia, regulate the flow of your blood and your energy first. After that, proceed to the center of the bamboo hut. Xianxia was briefly stunned by those words. After that, he managed to speak with much difficulty and awkwardness. Haven't we already practiced dual cultivation today? Even though He Ling was well aware of what Xianxia and Shen Xi had been doing in that bamboo hut for 6 hours every day. When she was faced with the 2 words, dual cultivation, that had come out of Xianxia's mouth, red clouds immediately bloomed on the wood spirit girl's tender face as she panikedly looked away. It has nothing to do with dual cultivation. Shen Xi's beautiful eyes remained as clear and sacred as ever. Over the course of these 10 months, you have finished refining my vital yin. This, in addition to your own improvement and the calmness in your heart, means that the time has come. Today, I will help you become a divine king. The transparent barrier surrounding the forbidden land of samsara was now engulfed by a layer of very weak white light. Even though it was only a very minor change, it completely blocked out everything. Even if the dragon monarch were to come, he would immediately know that Shen Xi was in the middle of some important thing that could not be interrupted, so he definitely would not force his way in. He Ling stood in the midst of a sea of flowers as she looked at that little bamboo house in the distance, her 2 hands nervously clasped together. The bamboo hut looked completely the same as it normally did, but a huge change was happening inside of it. It was a world of glowing white light, and besides Xianxia and Shen Xi who sat opposite each other, there was nothing else, and one could not even see the end of this boundless world. Moreover, within this pale white world, an invisible flow of energy that radiated a vast aura was silently moving, as if it was the first signs of a hurricane. Furthermore, this aura did not come from Shen Xi, but from Xianxia. Under the guidance of Shen Xi's power, Xianxia's profound energy flowed out endlessly. Furthermore, the profound energy that was being released from his body did not simply dissipate. Instead, it coiled and swirled in the air around them, as if it was being restrained by something, and being formed into invisible profound energy clouds that surrounded Xianxia. In a short amount of time, all of his profound energy had been drawn out, and the world of his profound veins became empty and hollow. But there was an inherent difference between this form of drawing out one's profound energy and using it up normally. It would not make Xianxia feel any exhaustion, and on the contrary, it actually made him more calm. Shen Xi, who had been silent and still for a very long time, finally sprang into action. Following the dance-like gestures of her jade hand, all of the profound energy clouds began to slowly sink downwards and gather around Xianxia's body. As they gathered together, they began to compress bit by bit, until they finally formed an invisible cocoon that engulfed Xianxia's entire body. All of this profound energy is the profound energy you have accumulated in your life. Shen Xi's voice, light and wispy as a dream, rang out in Xianxia's ear. Carefully think back to the first time you managed to form a tendril of profound energy up until today, especially the changes that occurred at every single level. Xianxia tightly shut both of his eyes without speaking. Stepping from the mortal way into the divine way. That was a fundamental change that meant that your profound energy had transcended the mortal realm and stepped into the divine. But it is only when one steps into the divine king realm that one's profound energy undergoes the true change in the divine way. Becoming a divine king symbolizes the fact that you have truly stepped into the higher levels of the God realm, gaining the qualifications to become the hero of a place, or even the king of a realm. Carefully experience each and every change. The divine king realm was a realm that many profound practitioners did not even dream of entering in their entire lives. There were also countless profound practitioners who possessed an enviable innate talent that none could compare with. And in the short span of a century or even a few decades, they had already reached the divine spirit realm. Yet they found themselves stuck at the bottleneck of becoming a divine king, and ended up being unable to break through it despite trying for their entire lives. But when facing Xianxia, whose profound strength had just reached the peak of the divine spirit realm, Shen Xi's tone was extremely certain and calm. It was as if Xianxia's next breakthrough in level was not an attempt, but an inevitability. Shen Xi's voice gradually faded out into the distance, as the layer of profound energy surrounding Xianxia suddenly exploded violently, turning into countless streams of profound energy currents, which surged towards Xianxia's empty profound veins. Boom! The world within Xianxia's profound veins emitted an explosive sound which lasted for a very long time. It was as if all the mountains in the world were collapsing, as if their innumerable storms wreaking havoc all over the place, as if countless volcanoes were erupting. The normally calm world within his profound veins descended into chaos as the profound energy surging into them was being distorted and shattered. Furthermore, this chaos did not gradually recede away. Instead, it was getting more and more intense with every second that passed by. The originally vast and surging profound energy had been smashed into countless fragments before dissipating into an endless amount of profound light. In the end, the space within his profound veins world began to be filled with more and more cracks, until they covered the entire profound veins world. If this continued, Xianxia's profound veins world would be on the brink of collapsing and falling to pieces at any moment. Yet Xianxia's face was exceptionally calm. Sometimes he felt as if he had been dumped in the middle of an erupting volcano. Sometimes he felt as if he had been buried in a most sinister and devastating sea of lightning. And sometimes he felt as if he had fallen into an endless dark abyss. But his heart and soul were completely calm, and not a ripple appeared within them. He silently sensed the changes in his profound energy, the changes in his profound veins, and the changes of the entire world. Bang, crack! It was at this moment that his profound veins world had finally shattered. Amidst the shattered profound veins world, the profound light emitted by the countless fragments glittered, as if they were a sea of stars that dotted the night sky. In the same instant, Shen Xi's beautiful eyes opened, and with a deft movement of her jade finger, that drop of spirit liquid that she had already prepared lightly came into contact with Xianxia's chest before silently sinking into his body. It was as if a drop of celestial dew had dropped from the heavens and sprinkled itself on a bunch of plants and trees that were about to dry up. The profound veins world, which had fallen into a brief period of silence and stillness, suddenly glowed with a strange and fantastic vitality. In that instant, all of the stars in the profound veins world started dancing as a countless amount of the spiritual energy that existed between heaven and earth converged to form innumerable currents of energy. It was as if all the birds in the world were paying homage to a phoenix as they flocked towards the inside of Xianxia's body. Gusts of wild wind suddenly started blowing inside the forbidden land of Samsara, and these gusts of wild wind all surged toward the bamboo hut that had lain silent for a long time. They grew more and more violent and frenzied, and they did not look like they were going to die down even after a long period of time had passed. The wood spirit girl dumbly watched this scene unfold before her as a deep look of shock appeared on her face. Inside the white world, Xianxia's expression remained calm, and it had not changed at all since the start of the process until now. His hair was dancing above his head, and a strange and fantastic light flowed around his entire body. This was the light of pure profound energy, yet it was more resplendent and brilliant than any other profound energy Xianxia had released before. The spirit energy was still surging, and the profound light surrounding his body was gradually becoming stronger. It was as if his entire person had turned into a blazing sun that was hanging in the sky, making it hard for people to stare directly at him. Xianxia's expression had finally started to change. His senses had changed. His senses towards his profound energy, his body and the world around him had all changed. An aura that he had never had before surged inside his profound veins before slowly spreading to his entire body as it clearly reached all of his veins and every bit of his flesh. Finally, at a certain moment, he opened his eyes. Boom! With a gigantic explosion. As if the azure dragon itself was roaring towards the sky, the profound light surrounding Xianxia ruptured and a peerlessly terrifying energy wave exploded out of his body. The pale white world was violently shaken by this energy wave, and one could clearly see distortions in this space. Shen Xi's silken robes and long hair were pushed back by this energy wave, and her beautiful eyes opened as well as they just so happened to come into contact with Xianxia's own gaze. Her absolutely beautiful lips pursed up slightly, and the small smile she showed in that instant was as fantastical as a celestial dream, causing Xianxia to descend into a deep stupor. After that, he suddenly rose to his feet and collapsed on top of Shen Xi. The rebirth of his mental state had not given him enough time to reconstruct the reverence he normally held towards Shen Xi's sacred aura. "You!" Not wanting to be roused from this beautiful illusion by the sound of her voice, his lips pressed forward and smushed Shen Xi's slightly parted lips. After that, he violently ripped off her outer garments, the fragments dancing in the wind, fully exposing those lithe and graceful curves. This was the first time he had been so forceful and domineering with Shen Xi, forgetting her status and any of the consequences of his actions. That drop of spirit liquid had not caused Xianxia's breakthrough. It instead had sped up the process of his breakthrough. Otherwise, given Xianxia's unique profound veins, stepping from the divine spirit realm to the divine king realm would have required more than 10 days, or maybe even tens of days. Healing had quietly waited outside all this while, and once the energy had finally calmed down, her gaze grew fixed as she nervously waited. Yet even after she had waited for a long time, Xianxia and Shen Xi still had not emerged. A full 2 hours had passed again before the tightly closed bamboo door had finally been pushed open. Xianxia slowly walked out from within and also walked into the depths of Healing's eyes. It seemed as if he had changed into a new set of ice phoenix snow robes as his body radiated a slightly peculiar, otherworldly aura. His aura had become withdrawn, and Healing could barely sense the existence of any profound energy from his body. Even his gaze had lost the sharpness that it had previously held, his eyes having become exceptionally gentle. But beyond that gentleness lay a deepness that she could not see through. After Xianxia had emerged, Shen Xi had followed behind him, and this was the first time Shen Xi had left the bamboo hut after Xianxia. The white silken robes that she had originally been wearing had now been replaced by a snowy garment of pure white, but Healing did not immediately notice these strange and obvious changes. She looked at Xianxia, a strange light flowing inside her beautiful eyes. "Did you succeed?" "Yes," Xianxia said as he gave a faint smile and nodded his head. He sensed the power flowing in his body. It was a power that was so robust and vast that it was hard for him to imagine. In fact, it was so unimaginable that he was still left with a deep sense of wonder and illusion. From the day he had stepped into the divine spirit realm under the 9-stage lightning tribulation to this day, only a year's worth of time had passed. But in this 1 year, he had yet again broken into a level that other people would not dare dream of even if they used up all of their lives. He had stepped into the divine king realm. Xianxia's changes were very subtle. Healing was able to clearly sense that something had changed, yet she was having great difficulty pinpointing that change. All she could tell was that it was a fantastic and mysterious sensation that seemed to indicate that Xianxia had become a higher level of existence. While Healing was looking at Xianxia with sparkling eyes, Xianxia's gaze also fell on her and he spoke. "Healing, do you still want to become my sky poison spirit?" The words that Xianxia suddenly said immediately stunned Healing, and for a moment, she could scarcely believe her ears. Initially, he had been most resistant to this suggestion, and she also deeply understood just why he was so resistant to it. So for these reasons, she had never brought up the matter again and would not do so until the Brahma soul death-wishing mark had been completely purged from his body, yet now, he was the first one to mention it. Furthermore, his gaze no longer contained any complicated feelings or resistance. There was only warmth and unswerving determination. Perhaps, during these 10 months, he had finally managed to convince himself to completely accept this matter. Or perhaps the changes to his soul that had happened when he became a divine king had also intangibly changed his understanding of the world as well. "Please let me become the sky poison spirit." Healing nodded her head, and she was still as sincere as the day she answered Shen Xi. "I will use everything that I have to help you. Furthermore, I will never ever try to urge you to bring me to the Brahma monarch god realm, and no matter what happens in the future, I definitely won't regret it." Even if a seed of darkness had been planted in her heart, her base nature was still incomparably pure and good. Even when she was going to lose her own personal freedom and her own existence, she still was unwilling to bind Xianxia in any way. She only begged for that one ray of hope. "All right," Xianxia nodded his head. He walked a few steps closer to Healing and looked her straight in the eyes as he said in a sincere voice, I know just how unforgettable and deeply etched a desire for revenge can be when it is born from losing everything. It can only be released, and forcing you to let it go or accept it will only cause you to be in unbearable pain for the rest of your existence. Thus, use everything that you have to take revenge then. Yun Qi's words caused He Ling's beautiful eyes to shake excessively. He stretched out a hand towards He Ling. The Brahma Monarch God realm are not only your opponents, they are mine as well. So, in the future you will not only be my poisoned spirit, you will also be the companion who has tied her destiny together with mine. This is my pledge to you. In the future, if we ever have enough power to go against them, then we must definitely make them pay 10 times or even 100 times what they owe us. Even though that goal was incomparably distant, even though no one had ever been able to do it in the entire history of the God realm, and maybe no one had even dared to do so. But at the very least, this was the vow that he made towards this wood spirit girl that did not hesitate to destroy her own existence in order to get revenge, a vow that she deserved. But for He Ling, whose soul had been hovering inside a pitch-black abyss, there were no words in this universe that sounded more beautiful than the words she had just heard. She nodded her head vigorously, her lips trembling. She wanted to speak, but before she could even form the words, tears had already started streaming down her face. When she had found out that He Lin and all her closest kinsmen had died, what engulfed her was not only vengeance, there was also a desolate loneliness, as if she was free-floating duckweed. Yun Qi's words had caused her, a person who had sunk into a boundless dark abyss, to feel something with an incomparable clarity. They had caused her to feel like she was no longer alone, and to even feel some sort of feeling of reliance. As he looked at He Ling's faintly trembling body, Shen Xi gave a faint smile. This is what she had always hoped to see, the scenario where Yun Qi rescued He Ling. Since that is the case, then let's do it now. Even though the Brahma soul death-wishing mark in his body had not completely dissipated, it would only be an affair that would take 2 or 3 more days to resolve. Since his heart was set, then there was no need for the previous dithering. Yun Qi took another step forward, and his body was so close that it nearly pressed against He Ling's body. After that he hesitated for a moment before turning around in an awkward manner and speaking in a sheepish voice. Senior Shen Xi, just how exactly are we supposed to do this? Shen Xi arrived at the side of both of them, her palm that was like celestial jade lightly holding up Yun Qi's left hand. Linger, once you have become the poisoned spirit, it will be nearly impossible to turn it around. Are you truly prepared for this? Yun Qi's brows faintly twitched, because Shen Xi had said nearly impossible to turn it around. She had not said it was completely impossible. He Ling wiped away the tears on her face and nodded with no hesitation at all. Linger was already prepared for this 10 months ago. Good. Shen Xi gave a faint nod of her head. Her jade hand flipped and her fingers lightly touched against the palm of Yun Qi's hand. Release the origin aura of the sky poison pearl, just a single thread will do. Yun Qi immediately did as he was told. With a single thought, a mossy green light flashed in the center of his palm. Shen Xi's jade fingers made a subtle movement, and immediately that bit of sky poison light was released under the direction of her fingers, then lightly touched the space between He Ling's eyebrows. Linger, close your eyes and calm your heart. When you feel your spirit coming into contact with it, and when it starts to blend with it, do not put up any resistance. He Ling closed her beautiful eyes, and very soon, an approximately 1-inch wide green profound formation appeared where the sky poison light had been resting. At the same time, an identical green profound formation appeared on Yun Qi's palm. Both of the profound formations started to rotate at the same time, releasing a pure and flawless mossy green light. Shen Xi's hand gesture changed again. A beam of profound light broke the skin of Yun Qi's finger, then carried away a drop of blood. The drop of blood was then sprinkled on the profound formation that had formed between He Ling's brows before it instantly sank into her body. The sky poison pearl and Yun Qi's body had merged together as one. As a result, this was not only a ceremony to convert someone into a spirit, it was also a contract ceremony similar to the one he had formed with Honger. But no matter whether it was a ceremony to convert someone into a spirit or a contract ceremony, the power to initiate everything did not lie in the hands of Yun Qi, nor did it lie in the hands of Shen Xi. Instead, everything was up to He Ling. During the entire process, if He Ling felt even one bit of regret or resistance, the ceremony would come to a halt. Wanting to force someone to become a spirit was the same as trying to force a divine, profound practitioner to accept a slave mark. It was a nearly impossible feat to accomplish. It required the wholehearted consent of the other party. However, this was a moment that she had always been praying for, so why would she resist or reject it? After the mossy green profound formation that lay between her brows had revolved more than 10 times, it suddenly released an incomparably dense green brilliance. Her entire body was bathed in this brilliant light, and her figure began to grow hollow before growing clearer. She saw a whole new world, a marvelous and strange dark green dimension. She could sense that her soul and this dark green world were gradually connecting. They were connecting tightly together like flesh and blood would. Furthermore, this strange feeling did not just appear within He Ling. Xianxia had also started to feel He Ling's aura gradually sinking into his own life force, just like it had been with Hunger all those years ago. WAAH. The brilliant light completely dissipated. Within the silence, He Ling slowly opened her eyes. Xianxia and Shen Xi still stood in front of her, and she was still surrounded by the world that she was familiar with. She was still the same as before. Her figure and her clothes had not changed, but her aura and the way she sensed the world had become entirely different. Besides her own wood spirit aura, an extremely weak but pure sky poison aura now flowed inside her body. Because the sky poison pearl's poison power had been in hibernation, right now, this thread of sky poison aura was composed of only purification energy. Now that the ceremony had been completed, the current her was no longer just He Ling. She was also the sky poison spirit. It was also from this moment onward that the sky poison pearl finally had a poison spirit once more, and it was no longer in a vegetative state. The sky poison pearl that belonged to Xianxia had fused with his body and was unable to separate from him. That also meant that from today onwards, He Ling's will, life, and freedom would all be under Xianxia's control. She knelt down and bent her body as she bowed to Xianxia, Master. Xianxia hurriedly extended a hand and said, "There's no need for this. I already said we are comrades." But He Ling stubbornly shook her head before turning to Shen Xi and bowing down again. "Master, Linger will no longer be able to accompany you from now on. Your great mercy is something that Linger will never ever forget, and if there is a next life, Linger is willing to be your servant for 10 lives to repay you for everything." Shen Xi let go of Xianxia's hand. He Ling had finally become the sky poison spirit in the end. This also resolved one of her worries, and whether it was for Xianxia or He Ling, it was an extremely good outcome. Now that she had become the sky poison spirit, He Ling's future would no longer be withered up and full of despair. Furthermore, now that he had He Ling, following the awakening of the sky poison pearl's poison power, Xianxia would be able to obtain a fearsome power that everyone would have no choice but to fear in the shortest amount of time. Linger, following him well, would be the best form of repayment towards me, Shen Xi said in a soft and gentle voice. The current you has not lost your own existence, you have instead become an existence that exists on a higher plane. Vengeance is still important, but aside from that, I believe that the you who has received a new lease on life will discover many things that are more important than vengeance. Yes, Linger will forever remember the words that Master has said, He Ling said in a trembling voice while still addressing Shen Xi as Master. Xianxia, Shen Xi said, you have just entered the Divine King realm, and not only is your profound energy unstable, you have also lost a large amount of yang energy. You are not to cultivate any more today. Go and take a good rest. Yes, Xianxia replied in a rather sheepish voice. Linger, even though you have already become the sky poison spirit, you did not lose the abilities you have as a royal wood spirit. There exists a mysterious and fantastic world within the sky poison pearl, and the divine plants and spirit flowers in this place can also be grown inside the sky poison pearl's world. During the next few days, while you are getting used to your new life, also try to bring the divine plants and spirit flowers in this place into the sky poison pearl's world. So when you leave this place in the future, you can still help your new master refine jade pellets and spirit liquids every day. The spirit flowers and mysterious plants within the forbidden land of samsara could only be grown in very pure environments, and even though the sky poison pearl's strongest ability was its poison power, the sky poison dimension within it was also an extremely pure world, because the most extreme poisons had always been some of the purest objects in the universe. After he had broken into the Divine King realm, Xianxia was no longer in a rush to cultivate. Instead, he spent every day stabilizing his new profound strength, while he leisurely got rid of the originally extremely dreadful Brahma soul death-wishing mark. Very quickly, just like Shen Xi had said, The Brahma soul death-wishing mark had completely dissipated from Xianxi's body in a short 3 days, and there was not a single trace of it left. Furthermore, it had not even been a year since he had entered the forbidden land of Samsara. Whether it was Xia Qingyu or Mu Xunian, the two people who knew about Xianxi getting afflicted by the Brahma soul death-wishing mark, neither of them would have thought that this dreadful curse would have completely vanished from Xianxi's body at this time. But Xianxi's heart had become far more peaceful than it had been since the time he had entered the forbidden land of Samsara. At the very least, he appeared to be completely at ease, and he did not feel any discontentment, bewilderment, or even his extreme hatred for Xianxia Yinger. Even after he had gotten rid of the Brahma soul death-wishing mark, he had not mentioned that he had wanted to leave this place to Shen Xi. He had finally escaped his nightmare and become a divine king. He also had gained a sky-poison spirit and a new hope, and he had also just made a pledge to He Ling. So if he wanted to leave here in a rash moment of impulsiveness, he might very possibly be buried in a new hell all over again. After all, even though he had become a divine king in front of people like Xianxia, he was still a small and pathetic ant. Furthermore, since she had already shown him her fangs, she definitely would not let him go after this. Jasmine? Xianxi leaned against the trunk of a spirit tree, his thoughts spinning. As he softly whispered that name, his finger lightly traced the ring he wore on his middle finger, as if he wanted to use this to communicate his thoughts and current situation to her, to let her know that she did not need to worry about him. This was the marriage keepsake that Jasmine had forced Keijai to give him. While he was lost in thought, he did not notice that after his finger had touched it, the ring had suddenly begun to shine with a very faint azure light. Realm was filled with twinkling stars, starlight twinkling throughout its ether. But today, the stars which dotted the sky seemed to be even more brilliant and resplendent than usual, and the entire star god realm seemed to be filled with an unusual quiet. There were prohibitions that were quietly disseminated throughout every corner of the star god realm, and from the star gods themselves to the lowest slaves and youngest children. No one would be allowed to leave the star god realm during these next few days, and those who were abroad were not allowed to return. Thus, anyone could smell that there was something big brewing in the star god realm, and that this big event was going to happen extremely soon. On this day, an incomparably gigantic barrier was slowly formed among the gleaming stars that were spread out through the sky, engulfing the entire star god realm within it. That's right, it covered the entire star god realm. Even though the star god realm was a sealed king realm, and there was already a barrier that would repel outsiders, the normal barrier was absolutely not in the same league as the newly formed barrier that appeared today. Because this barrier was a barrier that no force or power could break through. It was the star god realm's strongest defensive barrier. After that barrier, which covered the entire star god realm, was erected, a second similar barrier was formed within it, covering the core of the star god realm, the star god city where the star god emperor and the 12 star gods resided. The outer barrier was to stop anyone from entering the star god realm, while the inner barrier was to ensure that there was absolutely no way the people of the star god realm could enter star god city without permission. Upon sensing the energy aura that radiated from the barriers, all the strong individuals in the star god realm were extremely shocked. As the profound practitioners belonging to the star god realm, they were seated in the highest level of the entire god realm. But this energy aura was so vast and majestic that it had reached inconceivable proportions. There was no way anyone could break through this kind of power. But at the same time, erecting such a fearsome barrier would definitely require an extreme amount of resources and power as well. Without a shadow of a doubt, there was something huge going down in Star God City, an extremely important and huge affair that definitely could not afford to be disrupted by any outside power. As he unconsciously rubbed that ring, Xianxi's mind was filled with Jasmine's figure. His wistful thoughts about Jasmine had been with him since many years ago, and not a single day had passed without him thinking of her. But for some odd reason, the yearning and worry in his heart happened to be extremely intense today. He wanted to gradually calm his mind, and this feeling in the usual manner. Yet somehow, the figure of Jasmine in his mind refused to fade away no matter what. And for no rhyme or reason, his desire to see her had instead become exceptionally intense as well. In the end, it had all gradually coalesced into some sort of weird unease. "Why is your heart in such chaos?" Shen Xi's gentle and cottony voice rang out from beside him, and it was accompanied by a celestial breeze that spread into him. Xianxi shook his head before giving a faint smile. Nothing much. Perhaps it is because my heart has started to relax after I broke through to the divine king realm, so I starting feeling a pressing need to leave this place. But Senior Shen's, I need not worry, I am very clear on one thing. No matter how many cares or worries there are in my heart, now is definitely not the time to leave this place. As I said before, Shenzai said with a smile that was not a smile as she walked over, "Call me Shenzai." Xianxia was stunned by those words, and he said in an embarrassed voice, I always do it unconsciously. I will try to slowly get used to it." "Even if you can't get used to it, it is of no matter," Shenzai said in a languid voice. "In the end, an appellation is merely an appellation. It is just that I selfishly desire to not treat you as a junior anymore." Shenzai, when he said her name without using the word senior, Xianxia still felt extremely awkward and uncomfortable. It was akin to asking him to address his master as Xuanian. "I have something that I've always been very curious about and I've wanted to ask you about for the longest time, but I'm also afraid that you'll get angry with me." "You may ask," Shenzai said softly. That?" Xianxia spoke in a hesitant voice. "You said this one thing before, that Senior Dragon Monarch has always only be a junior in your eyes. But from what I know, Senior Dragon Monarch's age has already reached 350,000 years. If that is the case, then isn't your lifespan, I mean that." "You want to ask me how old I am?" Shenzai asked. Xianxia nodded his head before following it up immediately by saying, "I'm just asking you a casual question out of curiosity. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine as well." Xianxia was a very clever person, even if his physical relationship with Shenzai was incomparably intimate. He had never asked her about her identity, past, or any of her secrets. Because he understood that regarding these matters, Shenzai would automatically tell him when it was time for him to know. If not, even if he asked, there was also no way he would get a reply. This question about her age could be counted as the first secret that Xianxia was asking Shenzai about. Shenzai's gaze shifted from him and she looked into the distance. She did not utter a single word for a long period of time. Xianxia sensed that he seemed to have asked a question that he really should not have, so he swiftly changed the subject. "I guess that when a person has reached the level that you've reached, age is probably the most unimportant thing to them. How about I change the question? Before this, I had obtained the vital yin of a woman who was very strong, a woman whose profound strength had reached the divine master level. Cough, cough, cough. And after I cultivated it for one night, I broke into the divine soul realm from the divine origin realm, and that was very hard for me to believe at that time. Even if you beat Xianxia to death, he would have no face to honestly tell you that the woman he was speaking about was his master. But your vital yin was actually far more, that much more powerful than hers. If not for that, there would also be no way for me to break into the divine king realm in a short 10 months. Shenzai, this is why I wanted to ask out of pure curiosity, just what level has your cultivation reached? It couldn't be at the level of a god emperor, correct? Xianxia probed. Shenzai's aura had always given him a vague but boundless sensation. She was the person that Xia Qingyu said was the most unique and greatest woman in the entire god realm, so it could be seen that she had already had an extreme amount of fame in the god realm from a very long time ago. Her lifespan had even exceeded the Dragon Monarch, and while the Dragon Monarch had extreme adoration for her, he had always been humble and respectful before her, and he had never dared to even have any filthy desires towards her. All of these were indications that Shenzai's cultivation was definitely extremely high. Even if one were to tell him that her cultivation had reached the limits of all living creatures, he definitely would not doubt it. Shenzai's snowy face did not turn towards him. Her eyes remained fixed on some distant vista, the depths of her eyes filled with a disappointment that Xianxia would not be able to understand. This time she finally opened her mouth to reply him. "The level of power I possess surpasses everything in this universe, and that includes the Dragon Monarch." Xianxia had already had pretty high expectations, but upon hearing Shenzai's words, he was extremely shocked. Surpassing everything in this universe, including the Dragon Monarch. Senior Dragon Monarch is publicly acknowledged as the #1 person in the primal chaos. If you are stronger than him, then doesn't that mean? Xianxia had stood up amidst his excitement and shock, that you are actually the true #1 person in the primal chaos. If someone said that they were stronger than the Dragon Monarch, everyone would only treat it as crazy talk and fodder for laughter. Yet these words had come from Shenzai's own lips. SSSCI, Xianxia fiercely sucked in a breath of air. If he was able to cling to this big power that was Shen Xi, then once she left this place in the future, he would not need to be scared of Kaianai or whatever anymore. No, Shen Xi gave a faint shake of her head. I was referring to the level of power that I possess. It is just that I have no way of releasing this power. Xianxia was completely puzzled by her words. You are aware that I am bound by something to this place. But what has been bound is not limited to only my body and soul. Even my power has been restricted. Only light profound energy, the purest profound energy, was not bound by this thing that is fettering me, so it has become the only part of my power that I can forcibly use. It is just that light profound energy is not made for battle, so just based on this part of my power alone, there is no way I can be the Dragon Monarch's opponent. These words left Xianxia completely mystified. Just what exactly was thing that was binding Shen Xi? Her body could not leave this place for long, and even her power had been bound. During the time he spent here, he could not think of anything that was able to create this sort of binding. You said before that you have already found a way to escape these bindings, so you should be able to leave this place very soon. At that time, would there really be no one in this world who could be your opponent? Xianxia asked in a voice that was filled with expectation. The him who had been fallen under Kaianai's sinister shadow now wanted to cling to Shen Xi in a very disappointing and unbecoming manner. No, Shen Xi still shook her head. Even if my body and soul escape these fetters, that power is still something I will not be able to control or release. However, Shen Xi did not wait for Xianxia's questions as she continued, her eyes swiveling towards him as she gave him a deep look. In the future, there will be a way. Xianxia could clearly feel that the look that Shen Xi had shot him was very strange, as if there was some deep meaning hidden by it. At this time, Shen Xi's celestial countenance twitched slightly. She quietly closed her eyes before slowly opening them again as she said, "It seems as if something big is happening in the star god realm that you have been yearning for." Upon the sudden mention of the three words, star god realm, Xianxia's head swiveled towards her as if by conditioned reflex. "What's going on with the star god realm?" Shen Xi slowly said. "Just now I received a piece of news from the dragon god realm. About an hour ago, the star god realm opened up its absolute star soul barrier, which covered the entire space that comprises the star god realm." Absolute star soul barrier? What is that? Xianxia asked. "It is recorded that it is the strongest defensive barrier that the star god realm can erect." Shen Xi's gaze was calm and placid, and it was clear she was not too worried about it. In order to erect this absolute star soul barrier, just building its foundation alone is enough to exhaust 30% of the star god realm's resources. WHAT? Xianxia was well and truly shocked this time. What kind of notion was 30% of a king realm's resources? And yet this barrier actually needed to consume this 30%. Just how strong a defensive barrier was this? The reason why it is called the absolute star soul barrier is because it is linked with the blood and souls of the powerhouses of the star god realm. Just from the aura alone, the absolute star soul barrier erected today was formed by the auras of nearly 50 people at the level of Divine Master. 50 Divine Masters! Divine Master, the highest existence in the current universe, even in the upper star realms, they still had the capacity to become realm kings. If a star realm did not have a Divine Master, then it would be a completely different thing altogether. The Snow Song realm and Flame God realm was the truest example of this. The latter's combined power was more than 10 times stronger than the former, yet they were at a disadvantage just due to the existence of one Mu Xunian. 50 Divine Masters, on the other hand, Xianxia was basically unable to imagine just how terrifying that power would be. The Star God realm has the 12 star gods and 37 elders in total. Added together, this fits very well with the number I just mentioned. That is also to say that this absolute star soul barrier should be linked to the blood and soul of all the star gods and elders in the star god realm. Shen Xi tirelessly stated. What does that mean? That means that if one wants to break this barrier, one needs to be able to release a power that can simultaneously defeat the 12 star gods and the 37 elders. Xianxia was completely dumbstruck by this, but after that he said, "That sort of power basically doesn't exist, right? And that is precisely why it has the words absolute barrier in its name," Shen Xi said. "It's just that the price for opening this absolute star soul barrier is simply far too high, and the last time it was opened, it was in the extremely distant past, a time when the Dragon Monarch had not even come into being yet. This time, the star god realm has not been met with any natural calamity, nor did anyone bring disaster upon their heads. Furthermore, there is also no power in this universe which can push the star god realm to such an extent. Yet they suddenly opened an absolute star soul barrier that was linked with the life and souls of all their divine masters. It looks like the star god realm is definitely undertaking some huge task that concerns their future destiny right now. What sort of huge task could it be? Xianxia unconsciously asked. When he asked that question, Jasmine's figure flashed through his mind, causing his heart to thump violently for some odd reason. I do not know. A huge task that would cause the star god realm to open the absolute star soul barrier is also something that they definitely will not let anyone else know about. As Shen Xi's voice fell, her beautiful eyes moved, and her gaze fell upon the ring on Xianxia's left hand. Why is your ring giving off such a strong spiritual aura? Xianxia bent his head only to discover that a misty, dull blue light was slowly shining from his ring. This ring was normally always surrounded by a blue glow, but its light was normally faint and almost imperceptible. It was nearly undetectable. But at this moment, this blue light was exceptionally dense, and when Xianxia raised his left hand, the blue light nearly engulfed his entire palm. Xianxia's face was filled with shock and amazement. As Shen Xi watched Xianxia's reaction, it was clear that he had no clue what was hidden within. Shen Xi waved her white hand, and a cluster of white light landed on his ring. Within this ring, there lives an extremely weak spirit. At this moment, this spirit is struggling to break free and emerge from the ring. Shen Xi's words gave Xianxia a great shock, but following that, he suddenly recalled the words that Jasmine had said to him when she had forced Keiji to pass him the ring. This ring is something that Big Brother left behind as his death approached. He said that he had left the very last vestiges of his spirit within this ring, and it could protect me for an entire lifetime. 12 years ago, I passed this ring to Keiji before I ventured to the southern divine region. Now I pass it to you. Could it be? Shen Xi's light profound energy was so powerful that with just a single speck of white light, the spirit had stopped struggling and had become calm. Following the swiftly spreading radiance of the blue light, a blurry azure figure slowly started to coalesce in front of Xianxia. It was the figure of a person. This azure person's figure was similar to Xianxia, and even though it was only an image that was so blurry that one could not make out the face of the spirit, it caused Xianxia to feel a pressing aura of valiance and martial bearing. If a mere remnant of his spirit was already like this, then it was completely doubtless that this spirit had definitely been a person who had soared above and dominated all under heaven when he was alive. Master Ah! From a nearby place, He Ling clasped the jade-colored petals she had just plucked in her hands as she walked over. When she saw the strange and mysterious figure suddenly appear, she gave a startled cry as she stopped in her tracks. This day has still come in the end. As the azure spirit grew gradually clearer, a weak and drawn-out voice rang out in the air. It was a voice that carried with it a deep lamentation and a hidden grief. You are the heavenly wolf star god, Zisu? Xianxia asked in a wide-eyed manner. At first Xianxia only thought that the last bit of spirit Big Brother left behind, inside the ring, was only referring to a small fragment of spirit, and that it contained the last emotions and sentiments Jasmine and Keiji held towards Zisu. Perhaps Jasmine and Keiji had also thought so as well, and they had definitely never thought that this was not just a fragment, but that it could actually appear and even talk. In order to leave behind such a spirit fragment, it must have come at a cost of him heavily wounding both his lifespan and his spirit origin. But why exactly did he want to do such a thing? Xianxia's voice caused the azure spirit to react, and it was an exceptionally intense reaction at that. A distortion appeared in the spirit image, and the voice it projected had now turned strict and solemn. Who are you? Why are you wearing this ring on your hand? Xianxia could sense the anxiety in the spirit's voice, and he hurriedly replied, This ring was given to me by Jasmine. She told me that this was the last remaining bit of her big brother's soul. So, are you the big brother she was speaking of, the fallen heavenly wolf star god Zisu? Xianxia's words caused the spirit to calm down a little. Following that, he was assaulted by the subtle sensation of his own soul being touched. The lingering spirit was sincerely measuring him, and he was trying to test the veracity of Xianxia's words. After a long period of time, the lingering spirit spoke once more. Zisu is already dead. I am only a lowly bit of his soul that he left behind due to his discontent. Since Jasmine was willing to hand this ring to you, then it looks like she has finally found the person that I hoped that she would find. It's just that you're actually this weak. I'm ashamed, Xianxia said with a bitter laugh. Compared to Jasmine, he was truly far too weak and small. Big brother Zissou, you left behind a bit of your soul and you chose to appear today, so did you have something you wanted to say to Jasmine? I will definitely report every single thing to her without missing a single detail. The previous heavenly wolf star god Zissou had been Jasmine's big brother and the closest family she had. His death had brought Jasmine boundless sorrow, hatred, and resentment. Xianxia had also never thought that there would be a day that he could actually speak with his spirit. But he was very clear that the price to be paid for the appearance of Zissou's spirit today was the complete and utter dissipation of this fragment. And after today, it would no longer exist. Zissou's spirit image raised his head as if he was staring at the distant sky. This bit of my soul was something that I forcibly left behind as I approached death's door, confining it to that ring you are wearing on your hand. Moreover, this confinement would be released when the day of the rippling stars was about to arrive. I wanted to know if Jasmine had managed to successfully escape. Can you tell me whether she did or not? Even though he had already died, he was also unable to put down the worry he had for Jasmine. Did Jasmine successfully escape? Xianxia felt as if his head was filled with fog. Jasmine, she escaped. Escaped to where? Why would she need to escape? What do your words mean? Shen Xi, it looks like you are unaware of this. Indeed, you are so small and weak, so how could she possibly tell you? Then tell me this, where is Jasmine right now? She should be in the star god realm, Xianxia replied. The star god realm? The voice of Zissou's spirit grew a lot more bleak. Then do you know if the star god realm has made any strange moves recently? Xianxia's eyebrows twitched ferociously. He had just heard about the strange movements made by the star god realm from Shen Xi. Furthermore, it had been an enormously strange move. I just found out that the star god realm seems to have opened the absolute star soul barrier. Xianxia replied as a sense of unease swiftly assaulted him, his voice becoming rough and a bit hard to understand. Sigh, Zissou's spirit gave a gloomy sigh. Why did she not run away? Given the heavenly slaughter divine power that she possesses, she could clearly have fled. Even if she had to betray her ancestors and her realm and be unable to ever live a peaceful life, that would still be better than becoming a sacrifice and having both body and soul destroyed. Those words were faint, but every single one of them fiercely stabbed into Xianxia's nerves. He was no longer able to maintain his composure, and he fiercely rushed forward as he howled in a trembling voice. What are you saying? What is this about betraying one's ancestors and realm? What is this about being a sacrifice? Why would both her body and soul be destroyed? What exactly are you trying to say? What exactly are you saying? Even though Zissou was only left with a remnant of his spirit, something that could completely dissipate at any moment. At present, he could clearly see Xianxia's eyes shaking. He could clearly hear the trembling in his voice, and he could clearly sense the terror that came from his very soul, the man in front of him. Even though he was indeed small and weak, was the person that Jasmine was willing to hand this ring to, and he was also a person who truly cared about her. Amidst his cold sorrow, Zissou felt some comfort. Even though Jasmine's life was walking towards its bitter and miserable end, at the very least, after he himself had departed, there was still someone who truly cared for her like he did. Since you have such a great desire to know, then I will tell you, even though continuing to be ignorant would be the best for you. Xianxia sucked in a deep breath of air. It was about 20 years ago, when I was abroad, that I heard a story being circulated in the outside world. The story was that the star god realm was in the process of gathering a large amount of various high-level, profound jade. It was as if they had found some sort of opportunity to become gods, and they were preparing to carry out this so-called ceremony to turn them into gods. More than 20 years ago, the star god realm's true god plan had indeed circulated in the world for a while, and news of it had even reached the lower star realms. Even Xianxia knew about it. But it was just that the person who had told him, Jai Ruyan, and even Mu Bingyun, had all said that this was no more than completely nonsensical talk. I had originally believed that this was a nonsensical tale invented by a bored person. Even if the star god realm was truly undertaking a huge task, it would not be known to outsiders. But even wind from an empty cave will definitely have its source. Moreover, the star god realm was indeed gathering and purchasing a large amount of high-level profound jade at that time. In order to do so, they had not hesitated to dispatch people to the core merchant guilds of the upper, middle, and even lower star realms. So when I returned to the realm, I asked Royal Father about this matter. Royal Father's reply was exactly what I expected. He labeled it complete nonsense. Yet I did sense that his eyes wavered for a split second when he gave me his reply. It was as if he was hiding something. And if it was something that he tried his best to hide even from me, it definitely wouldn't be an ordinary matter. Xianxia held his breath as he listened to the tale. He did not dare to interrupt, and Shen Xi and He Ling were also quietly listening as well. There was a day that Royal Father went abroad, so I stole into his God Emperor Palace and discovered a bundle of jade strips which radiated an extremely ancient aura, and what was carved on those strips was the method to execute a sort of blood sacrifice. What method of blood sacrifice? Xianxia could not help but ask. Shen Xi's crescent brows faintly twitched at the mention of those words. But unlike Xianxia, what formed in her head was a slight and dull suspicion. It involved sacrificing the entirety of a star god, including his flesh, his power, his soul, and the divine power within, so it could be combined with another star god. Moreover, once this succeeded, the star god divine power would combine with the other star god divine power and undergo a unique change, thus making it very likely for the star god who received the power to break through the limits and step across that obstructions that basically could not be passed before, reaching the legendary way of the true gods. This method of blood sacrifice cannot be realized by just using any of the star gods. It also requires an incomparably strict and stringent compatibility. Moreover, in order to reach that level of compatibility, the star god that is to be sacrificed must be the direct kin of the person who is receiving the sacrifice, and the sacrifice star god must also be within one generation of the person who is receiving their power. That is also to say one's birth parents, one's brothers and sisters from the same father and mother, and one's very own children by blood. Boo. It was as if millions of lightning bolts had exploded in his brain at the same time. Xianxia's entire body shook fiercely. His eyes widened, and his face instantly turned as pale white as wax paper. Even though Zisu had not finished recounting his tale, he already understood. He understood it completely. Jasmine, she was the star god emperor's daughter by blood. The reason why they had opened the absolute star soul barrier was because of the blood sacrifice that Zisu had been talking about, and the sacrifice was Jasmine herself. Ah, master! He Ling hurriedly ran forward to support Xianxia, whose entire body was shaking so fiercely that he had nearly fallen to the ground. I took this bundle of jade strips and looked for Royal Father to ask him about this matter. Royal Father did not try to quibble or answer my queries with sophistry. He directly told me that he was going to carry out the blood sacrifice ceremony written in these jade strips. The reason why he was gathering a large amount of divine jade was in order to conduct this ceremony. The time for the ceremony came once every 100 years, and the day the ceremony was to be held was also the day of rippling stars, the time when the power of the star gods reaches their apex. And I, the only one amongst his sons and daughters to inherit the divine power of a star god, was to be a sacrifice in this ceremony. He told me that all of this was for the future of the star god realm, and that as his son and as a star god, I had the duty to sacrifice myself, and that this would even be the greatest moment of glory in my entire life. Xianxia's two hands balled into tight fists. His entire body was drenched by the cold sweat that continued to pour out of him. Shen Xi eyed him from the side, shocked that he would actually have such a large reaction. Him and the heavenly slaughter star god. H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A. Zisu's lingering spirit let out a howl of laughter. How utterly absurd, how utterly ridiculous. I was willing to give everything for the sake of the star god realm, even my very life. But how could it be due to such an utterly ridiculous and absurd method? A method that goes against all the laws of heaven and society, furthermore, all for the mere sake of a possibility at that. I resisted mightily. I told him that I would never ever obey, and I even thought of fleeing far away from the star god realm before the day of the rippling stars, even if that meant betraying my ancestors and my realm and having to live like a fugitive for my entire life. But just 2 months later, I returned from one of my expeditions only to discover that Jasmine had actually inherited the divine power of the heavenly slaughter star god. Being able to obtain the recognition of a star god's power and being compatible with it was an unsurpassed moment of honor and glory in the star god realm. Before all of this had happened, he would have gone mad with joy upon hearing such news. But that day had nearly been the most painful and despair-filled one of his entire life. And now that he recalled it, his voice was still filled with unbearable pain. I gave up on resisting, and I never thought about running away again. I just quietly waited for the day I would become a sacrifice. It's just that I was not able to protect my own life. When it was just him alone, he could still run away. But now that Jasmine had also become a star god, if he ran away, then Jasmine would simply become his replacement. And if he chose to flee together with Jasmine, then he would implicate Jasmine in his betrayal of the star god realm. Furthermore, betraying one's ancestors and one's realm was the most contemptible and heavy sin in the entire world. Even if they were the star god emperor's own children, they would have to live forever under the dark shadow of the star god realm. They would always have been pursued, never being able to even dream of living a peaceful and quiet life. So if he obediently became a sacrifice, then Jasmine would have a lifetime of peace and safety. She would be the heavenly slaughter star god, and the princess of the star god realm that no one could afford to anger. This was his choice, and he had not hesitated one bit. But before he could wait until the day he become a sacrifice, he had died because of Xianxia Yinger, or more accurately speaking, he had died for Xianxia Yinger. Before I died, I told Jasmine everything. I told her to flee for her very life. The further she fled, the better. But why did she? She clearly could have run away. She inherited the heavenly slaughter, divine power after all. She did escape. Xianxi's body continued to tremble. He said in a soft voice, but after that she went back, because she made the exact same choice you made, Zisu's remnant spirit. Do you know who the present heavenly wolf star god is? Xianxi's hands were clenched extremely tightly as every joint in his fingers steadily turned white. Kai Zhai. Zisu's spirit looked as if it had been swept up in a violent squall as it fiercely twisted and shook. He 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 he, H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A. He started laughing uproariously, a laughter that was incomparably wild and unrestrained, yet also incomparably mournful at the same time. This goddamned heaven, off. H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A. The star god emperor had 3 children who were all able to obtain the legacy of a star god's divine power. Furthermore, in the history of the star god realm, there had never even been 2 siblings who were able to accomplish that feat, much less 3. This should have been a miracle that was worthy of being recorded forever in the annals of the star god realm. Yet it had created the tragic destiny of the 3 siblings, Zisu, Jasmine, and Keijai, all because of a blood sacrifice ceremony that only existed in writing, a ceremony that no one knew was real or fake, and even worse, a ceremony that was not even guaranteed to succeed. Zisu's wild laughter was hoarse and filled with despair. Xianxi's face had gone ghastly white, and his entire body felt limp and numb. His heart was thumping intensely inside his chest, and his breathing was heavy and rough. This situation startled Healing so badly that her face had also turned white. He finally understood why Jasmine's expression had changed so much back in the profound sky continent, when she had heard from Moonflower that Keijai had become the new heavenly wolf star god, and why she had chosen to follow her back to the star god realm. He also finally understood why she had severed all ties with him in incredibly determined and merciless fashion, and had even said the words, "We no longer owe each other anything, and we will never see each other again." He finally understood why Jasmine had refused to come out and see him no matter what on that day in the eternal heaven god realm. Furthermore, every word she said was so merciless that they bored holes in his heart as she tried her best to chase him away. He finally understood why Jasmine had been so overbearing when she had forcefully betrothed Keijai to him during his time in the star god realm. She had been entrusting him to Keijai, and she had also been entrusting Keijai to him. He finally understood why Jasmine had not chosen to return to the star god realm after acquiring the evil god's blood and fleeing the southern divine region. Instead, she had chosen to escape towards the far distant lower realms. After her body had been reconstituted in the profound sky continent, she did not immediately return to the world where she had been born. Instead, she said that she would continue keeping him company for the next 30 years. So it was actually because she had not intended to return in the first place, and those so-called 30 years were no more than her being a tsundere. If she had not been discovered, she would have accompanied him for the rest of their lives. Before he left the star god realm, she was suddenly so adamant about him entering the eternal heaven pearl. As it turned out, the reason for this was to make him avoid the day where she was going to be sacrificed. And she also wanted to use that 3,000 years of emptiness to dull the emotions he had for her. Haha, how could that be possible? I chased you all the way to God realm. Even if I experienced countless life or death situations, even if I had to suffer the torture inflicted upon me by the Brahma soul death-wishing mark, even if I was never able to return, I did not experience even an instance of regret, so how could that dull my feelings towards you? Don't mention 3,000 years. It would still be absolutely impossible even after 30,000 years or 3 million years at that. Just like the star god blood that you left in my body, there is no way my feelings for you will ever disappear or be extinguished. During the short amount of time he had spent with Jasmine in the god realm, he had clearly sensed something abnormal in her behavior. At the very least, he knew that she was hiding something very important, something that she had no choice but to do from him. He had not pursued the matter, but at the same time, he had never thought that it would actually involve her very life. Because his Jasmine was the heavenly slaughter star god. She was so strong, and even though she was not the strongest star god, she was the star god who possessed the greatest speed, the greatest ability to hide, and the greatest ability to run away. Even when her body had been afflicted with a deadly poison all those years ago, even the strongest star realm in the southern divine region, the southern sea god realm, had not been able to catch her. Besides, she was also the daughter of the star god emperor, the eldest princess of the star god realm, who could even begin to threaten her life. So he had never even dreamed that it would be this kind of reason or this kind of result. Big brother Zissou. Xianxia was trying his best to maintain his composure, but the moment he spoke, every single word was accompanied by the chattering of teeth. Is there any way that we can save her? Save her? Just how are we supposed to save her? How are we supposed to save her? The voice of Zissou's spirit was faint and weak, but it sounded completely crazed. The absolute star soul barrier has already been opened. Besides the 12 star gods who possess the star god blood, no other living creature or existence will be able to enter or exit that place. So no one can stop it, no one can save her, no one. Xianxia vigorously shook his head before speaking in a lifeless voice. It won't happen. Perhaps the star god realm opened up the absolute star soul barrier for another reason after all. He is still Jasmine's father, he won't. Perhaps it's all fake. Amidst the huge shock and impact he was experiencing, he had become completely dispirited and was at a loss as to what to do. The only thing he could do was forcibly console himself. Father, is he even fit to be? Is he even fit to be? You are, With a light ring, Zissou's spirit suddenly was ripped apart after the distortions that had racked its frame became too intense. After that, it swiftly dissipated, disappearing from the face of this world. Big brother Zissou? Xianxia fearfully and hurriedly rushed forward, and the hand that he had subconsciously stretched out was only able to grab the last remaining bits of spirit that were swiftly dissolving into nothingness. Zissou had left behind this small trace of his soul in hopes that he would be able to personally see Jasmine escape the star god realm, because that had been his greatest worry before he fell. If he could see a safe Jasmine before the day of the rippling stars arrived, then he would be able to truly pass on in peace. But he never thought that his last bit of consciousness and would have to endure a pain and despair that was even deeper than the pain and despair he had endured on his dying day, causing the heavenly wolf star god, who had mightily shaken the entire god realm, to cackle and scream like an evil spirit. Why did it turn out like this? Why did it turn out like this? Xianxia's entire body had gone cold, his right hand had grabbed his head, and his stretched out and bent fingers looked as if they were going to crush his own skull. Master, what's wrong with you? He Ling had been so frightened that her face had also turned a ghastly white, and she was now feeling a shocking cold course through the hands that she was using to support Xianxia. Shen Xi had already understood many things from looking at Xianxia's reaction. She had previously guessed that Xianxia's evil god powers had come from the heavenly slaughter star god, and it was also highly likely that the heavenly slaughter star god had been his master in the profound way. At this moment, it looked like the relationship between these two people was far from ordinary, and the heavenly slaughter star god had definitely been by his side during all those years that she had been missing. Xianxia, things have already gone so far that it is no longer possible to change anything, Shen Xi said. To think that a powerful star god would also meet a fate such as this. If you don't want such a thing to ever happen again, the only thing you can do is to become even stronger, strong enough that you can change everything. To think that the power of a star god could combine with the power of another star god as long as a certain compatibility was present. This was a strange piece of news that had definitely shattered all known knowledge in the god realm, and even if it was spread, it would be rather hard to believe. But Shen Xi knew that this was likely true, because she had heard of a similar rumor, and she had heard it during a long-gone era in the distant past. It was just that not a single star god in any of the eras had ever truly done this before, because this fusion of powers required the sacrifice of one's own flesh and blood as a price. It was something that went against human nature, something that went against the laws of heaven and society. She had also never thought that this record would actually remain to this day, and that it would actually be put to the test. It was as if Shen Xi's comforting words had some effect as the shuddering which racked Xianxi's body calmed down bit by bit, and the hand that fiercely grabbed his own scalp began to loosen its grip as well. It was just that the ice-cold sensation that was coursing through He Ling's hands had become even more bone-piercing. When he had managed to stand up straight again, even his breathing had become exceptionally calm and steady. Cold light congealed in his eyes and a light flashed in the air above. After that, the vanishing moon celestial palace that was bathed in moonlight appeared as it broke through space. Xianxi's actions caused Shen Xi's beautiful eyes to move intensely as she stretched out a hand as swift as lightning to grab hold of Xianxi. "What are you planning on doing?" "I am going to the Star God realm," Xianxi replied, although trembling could be heard in that ice-cold voice. "Do you even know what you are saying?" The hand which Shen Xi used to grab Xianxi suddenly gripped much tighter. I must go no matter what." Xianxi's voice was completely hoarse, but every word that he said carried with it an icy-cold resoluteness that pierced the bone. Shen Xi's figure blurred and she blocked his path forward. "That is the Star God realm. What can you do even if you go? Can you even save her?" "Even if I can't save her, I still have to go," Xianxi yelled in a hoarse voice. "Xianxi!" Shen Xi's voice, which was always as graceful and soft as a cloud, grew severe at this moment. "Calm down right now. Even though the vanishing moon celestial palace is the fastest profound warship in the universe, it will still take several days for you to reach the Star God realm even if it goes at its maximum speed. By that time, the ceremony would have long been over." "No, it won't," Xianxi said as he shook his head. "Just now, Zisu's spirit said that the ceremony would only take place on the day of the rippling stars, so he set the time for his spirit to be revived to before the day of the rippling stars arrived. This means that the day of the rippling stars has not come yet. The Star God realm opened up the absolute star soul barrier in order to make preparations. They have not started the ceremony yet. I'll make it in time. I'll definitely make it in time." He had clearly said such deranged and dispirited words that made no sense at all, but his brain was so clear and awake that it was frightening. Even if you can truly make it, what difference will it make? No one can break through the absolute star soul barrier. Even the dragon monarch would not be able to. "I can." Zisu said that only the 12 star gods who possess the star god blood could enter and exit the absolute star soul barrier. And I just so happen to possess the star god blood that she has given me within my body. Perhaps no, I can definitely enter. I definitely can. Shen Xi, don't stop me. Xianxi's hands were balled into tight fists as he sought to escape from Shen Xi's obstruction. Shen Xi's eyes flashed and her arm lightly moved. Immediately, a white light engulfed Xianxi. This cluster of white light was exceptionally pure and thin, yet it made Xianxi feel as if an infinitely huge mountain was pressing down on him. Every single part of his body was firmly restrained, and he could not move even a single muscle. "You, let go of me," as if he would be able to escape the suppression that was wrought by Shen Xi's powers. His features twisted up impressively as he tried his best to break free, and his eyes were swiftly filled with veins of blood. "Let go of me. Let go of me." Following that extremely hoarse roar, large amounts of blood began to flow from the teeth that he had gritted ferociously. "Ma's master." He Ling had clearly been shocked silly, and she was left at a complete loss for a long period of time. "Xianxi." Shen Xi's voice was soft and gentle, but it also pierced one's heart. "Listen well to my words. You are still young and you can be willful, but you can't be willful with your own life. I do not know what happened between you and the heavenly slaughter star god, but you can't save her. Nobody can save her. If you go, you will only be going off to die in vain. Other than that, there won't be any other result. Right, I can't save her. Just how can a piece of trash like myself go and save her?" Xianxi could not move a single inch, but all of the muscles in his body were twisting and contorting, and it was clear that he was still struggling with all of his might. "But you want me to hole up in here and wait for the day of her death? I'd rather die." "Let go of me? Die?" Shen Xi's brows sank. "Does that word come out of your mouth so easily? Do you know how difficult it was to pluck your life from Kaianai's evil hands?" Xia Qingyu crossed entire divine regions to bring you here. She knelt down and begged for your sake, yet you would betray and disappoint her in such a manner. There's also Linger. She saved your life and even became your poisoned spirit. Just a few days ago, you personally vowed to her that you would take revenge on the Brahma monarch god realm together with her. You have not repaid any of the debt that you owe her, have not fulfilled a single bit of the vow that you made to her, yet you want her to completely die due to your absolutely unreasonable actions. Xianxi's eyes jolted into focus, and the struggles of his body stopped for an instant. You can die? Upon observing his reaction, Shen Xi's voice grew gentler. You can die in the middle of taking revenge for yourself and Linger. You can also die protecting other people. You can even die by being assassinated by someone else. But to send yourself to your death despite knowing that you would go just to die in vain. Have you ever thought of the people who painfully wait for your return in the lower realms? Have you ever thought of Linger? Have you ever thought of those people who did not hesitate to throw away their lives and dignity just to save your own? Have you ever thought of the heavenly slaughter star god who did not tell you a single bit of the truth in order to stave off your impulsive actions? Xianxi. Xianxi, your life is something that I have saved. I will not allow you to spend it so poorly, and in such a meaningless and stupid fashion, Shen Xi said softly. If you truly want to do right by her, then continue to live on and get stronger, strong enough that you can take back all of her discontent and dignity. You have the power of the evil god. You will definitely be able to accomplish what others cannot in due time. This is what you should do as man, as the person who has inherited the power of the evil god. Xianxi did not speak for a very long time, and his aura seemed to have calmed down slightly. Shen Xi thought that he had managed to calm down, and her heart relaxed slightly. But at this moment, Xianxi spoke again, his voice deep and slow. Shen Xi, this life of mine was indeed saved by you, and what I owe you cannot be counted, but... His eyes had turned scarlet, as if they had been stained by blood, and because his body had struggled far too intensely, cracks were actually starting to spread across his body. If you stop me today, I will definitely hate you for the rest of my life. Shen Xi's gaze turned towards another direction, and for a moment she was at a complete loss. Even given all the experience that she had in her life, she was still actually unable to understand why Xianxi would be so determined and resolute. He clearly knew that he could not save her. He clearly knew that if he went, he would only end up dying in vain. Even if it was someone that important to him, he still should not have behaved in such an unreasonable manner. I won't let you go, Shen Xi said with a soft sigh. Your heart has already descended into madness. Please calm yourself down first. I am very calm. I am more calm than I have ever been at any point in my life. Xianxi's voice was growing hoarser each time he spoke, and blood flowed freely as it seeped from his gums. I understand every single thing you are saying. I understand every single word. But you're the one who doesn't understand what exactly she means to me. You will never be able to understand. Shen Xi, let me go, please let me go, let me go. Snap. An incomparably dreadful ripping sound rang out in the air. Two extremely shocking and ghastly bloody lines had actually simultaneously split open on Xianxi's arms. His body had been completely suppressed, yet his alarming determination to continue struggling had erupted from within. Shen Xi's beautiful eyes shook intensely. The Xianxi in front of her was like a despairing wild beast which had been locked inside a cage of darkness. A wild beast that was using its own fresh blood and its very life to roar and struggle. Without Jasmine, Xianxi would merely have been a useless cripple who had been chased out of his own clan, who had received an endless amount of cold stares, and who did not even have the power to protect his own family members. So was what he felt towards Jasmine gratitude. No, it was not. It definitely was not. The feelings he had for Jasmine were very strange and marvelous. They were different from every other woman who had entered his life, and he wasn't able to put those feelings into words. But it was these inexplicable feelings, which bound his heart and soul, that caused him to chase her to the god realm. It was these feelings that allowed him to go from someone who had not even entered the divine way to the eastern divine region's conferred god #1 in the short span of 3 years. All for the sake of meeting her again. And now he had heard that she was about to become a sacrifice, that she was about to disappear from this world forever. In that instant, he felt as if his entire world was collapsing around him. He needed to reach her side, no matter what, even if he died, even if he lost everything. He was well aware of the fact that these thoughts would be viewed as incorrigibly stupid by anyone else. But in his life, in his 2 lives in fact, he had never been as resolute and determined as he was right now. Master, He Ling stepped forward and softly sank to her knees in front of Shen Xi. I beg you, let him go. Shen Xi's crescent brows wrinkled slightly. Linger, why are you also being this willful? Because Linger understands his feelings. He Ling's eyes were hazy and her voice was filled with distress. If the person in question was Linger, I would definitely go as well, even if I knew that I couldn't save him. Even if I knew that I would only be sending myself to a meaningless death, I would still definitely go. Shen Xi looked at He Ling before looking at Xianxia as a feeling of not knowing which course of action to take welled up inside her. This emotion, that she had not known for a long time, was now winding around her heart. Just why exactly was he doing this? Wanhu, if it was you. Let me go, let me go. Master, Xianxia's hoarse yells overlaid He Ling's pleading as they rang in Shen Xi's ears. She turned around, her back facing the two people as she slowly closed her eyes. Do you know how to get to the Star God realm? She softly asked. Her voice was like a ghostly wind. It was soft and light as cotton. Xianxia's struggles froze for a moment. He had gone to the Star God realm, but the last time he went, he had arrived there via the eternal Heaven God realm's profound teleportation formation. So he did not know where the Star God realm actually was. Shen Xi stretched out a hand, and as she pointed a finger, a small cluster of white flew out and entered the space between Xianxia's brows. Immediately, the location of the Star God realm was clearly imprinted into Xianxia's soul. Your life was saved by me, but in the end, your destiny is ultimately your own. You are free to do as you desire. I can advise, but I don't have any authority to stop you. Since you have made this choice, then go. Bang! With a soft pop, the white light surrounding Xianxia disappeared. The suppression vanished, and Xianxia fiercely staggered and nearly fell to the ground. After he found his footing, he did not leave immediately. Instead, he stood there with a dumbfounded look on his face as he stared dazedly at Shen Xi's back, and he did so for a very long time. He slowly walked forward, and he lightly hugged Shen Xi from behind after that. Shen Xi, Shen Xi. Xianxia's breathing was regular as he softly spoke into Shen Xi's ear. Even though I could never figure out why you were so good to me, my life is something that you saved. My light, profound energy is something that you gave to me, and you even worked hard to reconstruct my mental state. Guiding me to change my originally disappointing goals, I know and have sensed all of these things. The moment I broke through to the Divine King realm, I even thought that my own mental and emotional states had gone through a very great change as well. But the moment I heard her name, I knew that in the end I was no more than a disappointing mortal. Shen Xi did not say anything, but she did not push him away either. Even though it definitely sounds like a very childish and ridiculous thing to you, she just so happens to be a person whom I would give everything for, that I would throw all caution to the wind for. Your mercy, your expectations, it seems like it is destined for me to let you down in this life. If there is a next life, I will try my best to find you, and then I'll be obedient and listen to what you say. After that, Xianxia abruptly let go of Shen Xi and rose into the air as he flew into the vanishing moon's celestial palace. A beam of dense moonlight exploded outwards in the sky, and the vanishing moon's celestial palace transformed into a streaking trail of starlight as it vanished into the distant horizon. Master, He Ling softly cried, and before she could even say her goodbyes, she had already transformed into an emerald green ray of light as she vanished from behind Shen Xi and returned to the sky poison pearl. A long period of time passed before Shen Xi finally turned around. She stretched a jade finger and lightly traced the air, constructing a high-level sound transmission profound formation. Do me a favor, Xianxia is presently rushing over to the Star God realm. No matter what happens, I request that you protect his. Shen Xi's voice came to a sudden halt, and after several breaths of heavy silence, her hand slowly lowered, and the sound transmission profound formation vanished into thin air as well. It's fine. Shen Xi raised her head, endless disappointment and frustration filling her beautiful eyes. What she had originally thought was a gift from heaven had actually come to such a premature end in such a short period of time. Could this also be the will of heaven? The vanishing moon celestial palace maintained its top speed as it shot towards the faraway eastern divine region. As one of the best profound warships in the universe, its speed was something that even Kai and I had difficulty keeping up with. But Xianxia still felt it was moving too slow. Xianxia, in the end you and I are master and disciple. If you still respect me as your master, then promise me the last thing. I want you to immediately swear to never step into the realm of the gods. Even if you do enter the realm of the gods, you will not be able to find me anyways. And if by any chance you are able to find me, I will still definitely not meet you. From today onwards, I am no longer your master. All our ties have been severed, and we don't owe each other anything. Whatever I, the heavenly slaughter star god, want to do, when has it ever degenerated to the point where I had to explain myself to a mortal from the lower realms like yourself? I am a distinguished and grand star god, but I actually came to find you today. That in and of itself is already bestowing upon you great honor. But you not only did not feel deeply grateful, you actually want to try to climb over my head. I had no choice but to rely on you during those years we spent in the blue pole star, but right now, what are you in front of me? Do you have any qualifications to request to see me? And what qualifications do you possess that I must explain myself to you? Hurry up and scram. You, this moron, this huge moron, woo-you-woo. You were a Xianxia Cultivation. I want the both of you to become husband and wife from this day forth. There has always been a deep abyss in Cultivation's heart. Right now you are Cultivation's husband, so you have the responsibility to never allow her to ever fall into that deep abyss. Xianxia, 3 years from now, you must not only protect me, you must protect Cultivation as well, protect her for the rest of her life. Xianxia, remember well each and every word I have said to you. You're not allowed to forget a single one. Countless words and emotions chaotically replayed in his head. Her ruthlessness, her determination, her tears, her soft words, the things she had entrusted to him. Each and every one of these things pointed towards that most merciless truth. He sat on the ground. His body was incessantly rocked by shivers, and the teeth that he gritted together tightly had yet to loosen at any point of time. If you don't see her in the next 5 years, then you can forget about ever seeing her again in this lifetime. The words the Golden Crow spirit had told him that year were also the direct reason why he had rushed towards the God realm. It was clear now that the Golden Crow spirit had known about what was to happen today a long time ago. Perhaps it was Jasmine who had told it, or perhaps it came from his own memories of the primordial era. The words the Golden Crow spirit had said, the strange things that Jasmine had said and done, the abnormally intense hatred she held towards her own father, and the act of entrusting Cultivation to him. I should have realized this a long time ago. I should have realized this a long time ago. Why am I always so naive that I never want to think in that direction? Jasmine, you said you killed an innumerable number of people, and you've always made yourself out to be a bloodthirsty and ruthless person. But I know more than anyone that you have never wantonly or unjustly slaughtered anyone before, despite having inherited the power of the heavenly slaughter star god. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that you do not like to see your hands stained with blood, and you even sternly ordered Cultivation to never casually take another person's life. So all the blood that has stained your hands, when has it ever been for your own sake? The you who has not been treated kindly by the world has always treated the world around you with kindness. For your big brother, for your mother, for me, and for Cultivation. Why did you not escape together with Cultivation? Cultivation is so reliant on you that she would definitely be willing to betray the star god realm together with you rather than lose you. Even if she would have to live the life of a fugitive, always having to live under someone else's dark shadow. You're clearly clever. But why did you have to be so silly when it came to this one thing? Because of my impulsiveness and disobedience, you have scolded me so many times. Yet how are you any different from me in this regard? Xianxia's hands slowly tightened into fists, and in the middle of his right hand was the void illusion stone that Cultivation had given to him. If he could make it in time, if he had the opportunity to get close to Jasmine, there was a possibility that he could flee together with her. But he was even more clear on just how tiny this hope was. The Star God realm had not hesitated to open up the absolute star soul barrier for this ceremony, so they would definitely not allow any accidents to happen. He Ling's footsteps were silent as she walked over and leaned lightly against Xianxia's side. Xianxia's gaze turned towards her. He Ling, I... Just as he had started speaking, He Ling interrupted him by giving a light shake of her head. There's no need to say anything, and I want to hear a sorry from you even less. On the day that I became your poison spirit, I told you that no matter what happened in the future, I would not regret it. Xianxia. Linner is already dead. I wasn't able to protect him, and I wasn't able to save him. In fact, I wasn't even able to see him for that one last time, so I understand what kind of pain this is, He Ling said softly. Do not be left with the same regrets that I have. No matter what the ending is, I will accompany you. He Ling. Xianxia muttered softly, and he was unable to say anything else for a long period of time. He Ling's existence and words were undoubtedly the greatest companionship and consolation to the current him right now. It was just that he understood that the debt that he owed her would never be able to be repaid in this life.